Chapter 719. The others could not help but feel their eyelids twitch. Yang Xian took a deep breath and smiled. Miss Pei is right. Actually, I think Yuan is very good too. Should I ask her to write Spring Night Banquet again? Bei Yunj was speechless. Yang Xian felt that this elder young miss really did not know the hardships of the world. Their company was not as lucky as Yumanran. He did not know where Yumanran had met Yuan. Ever since Yuan wrote songs for Yumanran, her popularity had soared and was close to Qin Yu's. This year's Golden Melody Award would definitely be Yumanran. It was said that Yumanran had already been nominated for the Gretel Music Awards overseas. Yumanran was going to take the international route, all right. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. Perhaps part of the reason why Madame Zhu had left in such a hurry just now was because of her. Everyone was speechless. Sure, she was really an otherworldly elder young Mississippi. Soon. Yang Xian, who was thinking about how to solve the problem, heard his assistant's shocked voice again. Zhu Limin, what now? Yang Xian was annoyed at the mention of this old woman's name. Let me tell you, you'd better not mention it, she said that she's working with Fei Yi, instantly. The entire venue fell into silence. Fei Yi was considered a unique singer in the music industry. Besides, it was said that Fei Yi was planning to make a national album this time. In terms of popularity, Fei Yi was not as popular as Qin Yu, but with so many years of experience in the music industry, he had saved many die-hard fans. This time, Fei Yi and Qin Yu had released songs together, so Fei Yi's fans would definitely not back down. This old woman must be doing it on purpose. She knows that Fei Yi and we are competitors this time. Yang Xian gritted his teeth. Besides, Zhu Limin knows all our arrangements. She must. Hearing this, Bei Yunj went forward to pick up Qin Yu's arrangement drafts and slowly glanced at them. This made the others look at Bei Yunj a few more times. However, Bei Yunj suddenly turned to Qin Yu and said, "We can go and see Grandma now." Everyone was speechless. They had thought that this elder young miss was thinking of something. It turned out that they were thinking too much. Qin Yu also stood up. His arrogant and superior eyes were relaxed and there was no seriousness or anxiety in them. Instead, he reached out carelessly and lifted Bei Yunj to tidy her clothes. The young and handsome man smiled, his magnetic voice low and gentle. Let's go." Yang Xian asked, "Qin Yu, you? Was this brother really not anxious at all? I still have to visit my elders. We'll talk about this next time. I can't deal with it right now." Qin Yu glanced at his watch and left with Bei Yunj. Brother Yu's sister doesn't seem to care about Brother Yu at all. Someone whispered. Yes, Brother Yu is taking care of her. Someone felt indignant for Qin Yu. Why? Wasn't she worse than that Qin Yojiao from before? I remember that Miss Qin Yojiao knew to bring some food for Brother Yu when she came to see him secretly. Who allowed you to talk about someone else's sister? Yang Xian glanced at them warningly. If you don't want to be fired by Qin Yu, you know what to say and what not to say. After all, it was obvious how much Qin Yu valued and doted on Bei Yunj. Only Qin Yu's assistant felt that Bei Yunj was not as bad as they said. In the car, Qin Yu chatted with Bei Yunj from time to time. He had no intention of bringing his bad mood to Bei Yunj. Suddenly. Must I work with someone? P.S. Second update, remember the monthly votes. Chapter 720. Bei Yunj only glanced at him through the rearview mirror. With that said, she looked at the scenery outside the window. Qin Yu was stunned for a moment before his thin lips curled up and his low and magnetic voice sounded. Second brother will find a good one. There won't be a problem. With that said, Bei Yunj's eyes moved. She knew that Qin Yu wanted her to feel more at ease. She lowered her head and did not say anything, only playing with her phone. After meeting Qin Luyan and Qin Lang, the four of them went to Director Lin's house. Although Director Lin's house was not big, it was more than enough for one person to live in. The lighting and ventilation were quite good. However, it could not compare to a big villa like the Qin family's. The moment they entered the house, Bei Yunj did not notice that even Qin Lang was not wearing a jacket like before and had an unruly expression. Instead, he was wearing a clean white t-shirt and his lean back was straight. Even his black earrings had been taken off and his handsome face was nervous. On the other hand, Qin Luyan, who was beside him, looked the same as usual. However, his sweaty palms revealed his nervousness. Soon, Director Lin opened the door and did not expect Bei Yunj to come in. There were three extremely handsome young men behind her. Each of them was more eye-catching than the other. "Hello, Grandma," Qin Lang said immediately after regaining his senses. However, he was slightly reserved. Beside him, Qin Luyan also nodded slightly, but his tone was gentle and polite. "Director Lin. Come in." Director Lin smiled and wiped her apron with both hands. Her eyes were gentle and she always made people feel that time was peaceful. The Director Lin in front of him was much younger than the Director Lin in Qin Lang and Qin Luyan's memories. Her hair was not white either. However, the gentleness on her face was still the same. Only such a gentle person could raise a gentle girl like Gu. "I've prepared some food. I don't know if you like it, but there are some snacks on the table." Director Lin smiled. However, Bei Yunj glanced at Director Lin. "It's not like Grandma won't buy it for you, child." Director Lin was amused. "No, I just feel like I've fallen out of favor." Bei Yunja's lips curled up and she looked away lazily. "Grandma, we like the snacks you make," Qin Lang said immediately. Although his silver-white hair usually appeared unruly. But now that it was so obedient, it inexplicably made people want to touch it. Okay. Grandma will get something to eat." Director Lin was also a little obsessed with looks. Looking at the three brothers of the Qin family, she couldn't stop smiling. Her Gu's brothers were indeed handsome. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, went back to her room. Leaving behind the three brothers, the air was cold. "Ah Lang, big brother, don't be nervous. Our grandmother is very good." Qin Yu sat lazily on the sofa, looking very familiar. It was obvious that he was showing off. "Qin Lang, was Qin Yu asking for it?" Coming. Try the desserts I made this morning." Director Lin happily held 2 small plates of desserts. After the 3 members of the Qin family expressed their gratitude, they all took a piece from the plate. It was as delicious as the desserts made by Director Lin in his previous life. Qin Luyan and Qin Lang had different thoughts. However, when she regained her senses, she found that Qin Yu had already eaten a lot. Qin Lang was the first to be unhappy and immediately started to fight with Qin Yu. Seeing this, Director Lin was a little caught off guard. She did not expect the 2 noble young masters of the Qin family to suddenly fight over the desserts she had personally made. P.S. Third update. The good guys have dropped the rankings. There are still 2 more updates. Can the good guys get it back? Chapter 721. At this moment, suddenly, Qin Luyan stood up and tidied his sleeves slowly. He said in a low voice, "Is Director Lin preparing to cook? Let me help you." With that said, Qin Luyan glanced at them calmly and said slowly, "They like to eat like this." What he meant was that Qin Yu and Qin Lang only liked to fight for food. Wasn't this something only children did? Director Lin looked away and nodded. "Mr. Qin, do you know how to cook?" Qin Luyan looked down, the light in his eyes dark. "Director Lin, just call me Ah Yen. I know how to cook." Back then, because his legs were crippled, Qin Luyan had been depressed for a long time. It was always Director Lin who came over to talk to him. When he walked out of the shadows, it was Director Lin who taught him how to cook personally. Director Lin was a little surprised. She did not expect Qin Luyan to take the initiative to get close to her. Then, she smiled. Okay, then Yen will cook with Grandma. Grandma's cooking is very delicious. Yen can learn from her too. Hearing this, Qin Luyan's lips curved. Very quickly, he took off his suit jacket, revealing his muscular waist. The sleeves of the white shirt inside were also slowly rolled up. It looked like it was the first time a rich young master had cooked. However, when Director Lin started to cook, she realized that Qin Luyan really knew how to cook. Even the amount of seasoning she asked Qin Luyan to add was just right. This surprised Director Lin a little. Yen, do you cook often? Director Lin had a feeling that this upper-class young master, who looked like he did not do any household chores, really knew how to cook. I did for a while. Qin Luyan smiled. Then, when Director Lin was about to bend down to take something, Qin Luyan took it for her faster. Chapter 536 Literature. Grandma, if your waist hurts again, let me cook. Director Lin was stunned. Yen, how did you know that my back hurts? A dark look flashed past Qin Luyan's eyes and his eyes were gentle and obedient. I saw you pat your back just now. No one could imagine how Qin Luyan had sent Qin Youjiao away back then. It was even harder to tell that this person could do something like force her to abdicate. I see. Although Director Lin did not remember when he had patted his lower back just now, he did not think that Qin Luyan would lie to him. Subsequently, Director Lin didn't leave either. Instead, she watched Qin Luyan cook while she helped him. Yen, give Gu some more time. That child isn't someone who would go to a dead end. Director Lin smiled at Qin Luyan in a chatting tone. Qin Luyan stopped washing the rice and said in a low voice, I woke up too late. There were some things that couldn't be changed even if they were reborn. As long as you put your heart into it. Director Lin helped Qin Luyan tidy up his sleeves that had slid down. Some things will cause cracks in people's hearts for the rest of their lives. She smiled gently. It's funny to pretend to be peaceful, but it's sad that we can't cross this hurdle. Principal Lin had watched his young lady grow up with his own eyes. He knew that his young lady couldn't possibly hate these three people. Even now, Gu was very different from before, but her heart was still kind. Gu is a gentle person. She was in the past and still is. Director Lin smiled and said, you guys are good children too. Grandma likes all of you very much. In the room. Chapter 722. Soon. Bei Yunj crumpled the score again and stuffed it into her pocket. She called Yu Manran. Gu, you still know to look for me. Yu Manran sounded aggrieved. She had seen the headlines last time. The girl beside Song Yao was definitely Bei Yunj. Gu was actually so good to Song Yao. They clearly knew each other first. Your relationship with Song Yao is too good. Gu, do you not like me? We clearly knew each other first. Yu Manran didn't try to hide it, and her tone was a little pitiful. Bei Yunj was speechless. What were they thinking about? Yao Yao's dessert is quite delicious, Bei Yunj thought for a while and explained casually. Yu Manran was speechless. Ha! He didn't expect that the saying, if you want to capture a man's heart, you have to capture his stomach first, was also applicable to women. Yu Manran, have long legs and a slender waist. I'm the young lady of a super wealthy family, but I was defeated by a small biscuit. Yu Manran said faintly. Bei Yunj's eyelids moved and she said, Man, I need your help with something. She took out the ball of paper from her pocket and looked at it for a while before saying, I want to collaborate with Qin Yu on an album. Huh? I heard that the person who collaborated with Qin Yu on the album is Zhu Limin, right? Yu Manran had also looked for Zhu Limin before, hoping to work together. In the end, Zhu Limin didn't like her and chose another singer. However, what was regrettable was that ever since that time, Zhu Limin had been unable to write a hit song and was criticized for not being as capable as before. This also made Yu Manran feel confident that he was a coy. I saw her in the morning. Bei Yunj added. She left quite angrily. Yu Manran started to suspect that she had left because of Bei Yunj. Then why don't you tell Qin Yu directly? After all, he's your second brother. Yu Manran asked in confusion. There's no need for that. I'm partly responsible for what happened this time. Bei Yunj said slowly, ask them to send you the score, and then send it to me. Alright, I got it. Subsequently, just as Bei Yunj went out, she heard Qin Yu answering a call. What is it? Qin Yu's voice was a little indifferent, with an imperceptible coldness. The person on the other end of the conversation was Qin Youjiao. She had heard from Pu Lani that Qin Yu had asked her for a collaboration, but Pu Lani had rejected him. Qin Youjiao laughed, her voice soft and gentle. Second brother, is there a problem with your album? Actually, I can help you. Prani and my teacher know each other. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. With that said impatiently, Qin Yu wanted to hang up. But in the next moment, Qin Youjiao hurriedly said. Wait. The people not far away probably knew who the caller was. Bei Yunj lowered her eyes and thought for a moment before she sent a new message to Yu Manran. No need. Then, Bei Yunj returned to her room and started reading. At this moment, in the long corridor, Qin Youjiao was persuading Qin Yu. Second brother, actually, I'm not worse than Pu Lani. If you don't want to work with Pu Lani, you can work with me. I'm already an E-rank member of the International Musicians Association. All members of the International Musicians Association needed to be assessed and there was also an elimination system. Those below E rank would be eliminated. Qin Youjiao was indeed very talented to be able to pass the E rank examination at her age. With that said, pride appeared in Qin Youjiao's eyes. Chapter 723. This was something Bei Yunj would never be able to catch up to her. Qin Yu should know who was more useful to him now, right? However, on the surface, Qin Youjiao still said, Second brother, I just want to help you. I think Yunj definitely won't mind. Second brother, you. Listen, I don't want to hear your voice the next time I answer the call. The Qin family has nothing to do with you, and I have nothing to do with you either. With that said, Qin Yu did not give Qin Youjiao a chance to speak and hung up the call. This made Qin Youjiao's expression change and she gritted her teeth. She did not understand what Qin Yu was thinking. How could Bei Yunj compare to her? Either he cared about Bei Yunj's feelings or he was not even willing to accept her help. Taking a deep breath, Qin Youjiao laughed coldly. Sure. She wanted to see how they were going to resolve this matter. In the evening, after dinner, Bei Yunj was sent back first. Qin Yu and the rest went to the company. A few days later, Bei Yunj saw the summer vacation homework sent by Lu Yuanxi. Her eyelids moved and she took a deep breath impatiently. In the end, she sat in front of the table and started to do her homework. Although the questions were simple, it did take a lot of time to finish the entire book. Towards the end, Bei Yunj did not have the patience to write the process and directly wrote the answers. After 3 days, Bei Yunj finished all her summer vacation homework, except for the 30 essays. On the 4th day, Bei Yunj received a call from Yu Manran. Before going to Yu Manran's company, she threw the summer vacation homework she had written to Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing, who were working hard in the library. After entering the door, Yu Manran immediately called Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj looked at her and took off her mask. Did something happen? Your second brother. Yu Manran felt that Bei Yunj's relationship with the Qin family was not good, but he did not think that Bei Yunj would really stand by and do nothing, so he called Bei Yunj over. As expected. Bei Yunj glanced at her. What's the matter? As for your second brother, because he hired a new musician, he was accidentally photographed by the paparazzi. That's why he's been criticized quite badly. Yu Manran couldn't help but glance at Bei Yunj. The reason why Qin Yu was being defamed was because there was too much attention on him. Therefore, some unscrupulous media outlets would not let go of this opportunity. Most of them exaggerated and said that Qin Yu had hired a low-ranking musician this time, but in order to cheat fans of their money, he insisted that he was a gold medal musician. However, what Yu Manran found even more indescribable was that because of this incident, the new musician actually went back on his word. Bei Yunj could not help but raise her eyebrows. She never thought that Qin Yu wouldn't ask Qin Yojiao to help him. All this time, Bei Yunj had never thought that Qin Yu really planned to cut ties with Qin Yojiao, including Qin Lang and Qin Luyan. Do you want to interfere? Yu Manran asked cautiously. Get them to send the manuscript over before 8. Bei Yunj thought for a moment and said calmly. In the end, this was also the original owner's wish. Okay. Yu Manran smiled and heaved a sigh of relief. As a friend, Yu Manran still hoped that Bei Yunj could have a few more family members who could enter her heart. He didn't want to shoulder everything by himself. He didn't know where this habit came from. In the afternoon, many people were watching the commotion, including Qin Yojiao, who was far away in our nation. However, no one expected Yu Manran's studio to suddenly update a post. Yu Manran's studio, who is it? Who said that our Yun is a low-ranking musician? Aggrieved, then let's welcome our low-ranking, super, celebrity, artist, Yun's annual work. It will be a heavy hit. Please pay more attention to Best Actor Qin's new album Qin Yu Studio, P.S., 2 more chapters. 6th place on the monthly votes list. It's been hard on my good guys. Keep it up and continue to update in the afternoon. There will also be additional chapters. Chapter 724. Now, Fei Yi's fans were about to explode. It's teacher Zhu Limin. Ah. My child is so awesome. Ha ha ha, are you guys responding to Best Actor Qin? Best Actor Qin's career in the entertainment industry has been smooth. I didn't expect him to fall because of a new album. So, what's going on with Best Actor Qin's family? They didn't manage to invite a musician and are still trying to convince the fans? Gold medal musician? Isn't that teacher Zhu Limin? Fei Yi's fans had long disliked Qin Yu's family, but Qin Yu had too many film and television achievements. He was indeed worthy of being the best actor of Sanchi. But this time, since they had a chance, of course they had to trample on him. Including Zhu Limin. After seeing the comments online, she felt exceptionally happy. That Qin Yu, including that ignorant sister of Qin Yu, should pay the price for humiliating her back then. Soon. Everyone saw that after Zhu Limin reposted it, she sent a message. Zhu Limin, I like young people who love music. This also gives me more inspiration. Not relying on a fan base or marketing, the meaning was obvious. She was mocking Qin Yu's family. Relying on fans and marketing was not true love for music. Not long after. Hashtag Zhu Limin Qin Yu hashtag was trending again. Most of them were on Zhu Limin's side. After all, Zhu Limin had a certain status in the music industry. And Qin Yu was in a mess because of the new musician. So, another group of people started to criticize Qin Yu. However, about half an hour later. However, no one expected Yu Manran's studio to suddenly update a post. Yu Manran's studio, who is it? Who said that our Yun is a low-level musician? Yun, aggrieved, then let's welcome our low-level, super, Yun's annual work that we have created with all our might. It will be a heavy hit. Please pay more attention to Best Actor Qin's new album Qin Yu Studio. Everyone who suddenly received this message was shocked. So, the person Best Actor Qin was really working with was Yun? You said that Yun is a gold medal musician. Are you forcefully lowering Yun's status? She's a proper musician. Ha ha ha, you said that Yun is a gold medal musician. Have you considered Yun's feelings? Ah. Teacher Yun actually opened a small account. Crazy bird. No way. Our Yun has a low ranking. Song is the pinnacle. She single-handedly groomed the top singer, Sister Man. She's a member of the International Musicians Association in Country A. Her latest song, Spring Night Banquet, has been praised as the best national style both at home and abroad. I want to ask, which composer is better at fighting than our Yun, at this moment? Everyone who had been eating melons for the past few days felt their scalps go numb. Then what about the new musician? Everyone was still a little stunned and could only click on the personal page of the new musician who had become popular because #new musician Yaojia rejected Qin Yu's request #. Yaojia, thank you for your concern. I've been very busy recently and didn't accept teacher Qin Yu's invitation. His meaning was clear. Qin Yu had invited him, but he had rejected him. Looking at this statement, Qin Yu's fans did not dare to say anything. After all, the photos had been taken, but he didn't expect that. In the end, the person Qin Yu was working with would be Yun. This time, Qin Yu's fans could finally hold their heads high. Many passers-by also came over to watch the show. Are you there? The weather is very good today. I think best actor Qin should be drinking tea and chatting with Yun. Take a guess. Will the winner of this year's Golden Melody Award and Gretel Music Award be you or Yun? P.S. I've changed a little. Babies, can you look at the previous chapter again? Pinch your face. You've fallen from 7th place in the monthly votes list. Be good, remember to vote and maintain the updates. Good evening, young ladies. Chapter 725. Brother, I know you're a little talented, but don't scam others. Look. You accidentally scammed a god. Ha 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 ha, is Ning saying that best actor Qin can't afford to hire you, so he can only look for Yun? At the same time. Other than fans, there were also some famous musicians who followed Yumanren's studio. It was not because of anything else, but because in the past, news of Yun could only be found through Yumanren's studio and the official account of the International Musicians Association. So, the big shots in the industry followed Yun's account and reposted this post to express their doubts. Everyone clicked on it and saw that they were all professors of XX Music Academy, classical musicians, and members of the International Musicians Association. Everyone's heart ached. This new musician had failed miserably, he had just started working and he had already scammed Yun. At the same time. Seeing this message, Xiao Jia almost lost his grip on his phone and his scalp started to turn numb. Yun. How did this happen? He just felt that compared to being mocked with Qin Yu, it was better for him to use Qin Yu's popularity to climb up. However, who would have thought that Qin Yu would actually invite Yun? If Qin Yu could invite Yun, why would he invite him? Xiao Jia could not figure it out, but the truth had already happened. His face paled. Not long after, the 2 interviews that he had arranged previously called to cancel. It's over. Xiao Jia's voice was trembling. Everything he had worked so hard to manage was gone, in less than an hour. Yun had gained nearly 300,000 fans. However, she did not send any messages for a long time. Even her profile picture was pure white and there was no introduction. Suddenly, he turned off Yun's fans and realized that Yun had updated her status. Yun, young people only want to earn money. The moment the message was sent, the comments section exploded. Ah, in my lifetime, it's Yun who spoke. Ha 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 ha, Yun is so down to earth. I love your work so much. Yun seems to be replying to someone, it must be Zhu Limin. Just now, Zhu Limin said that best actor Qin doesn't really love music and only wants money from marketing fans. Yun is so ruthless. I didn't dare to speak just now, afraid that I would be treated as Qin Yu's fan. She knows how bad Zhu Limin's results have been for the past 2 years. Don't try to scam me. Thank you. HHH Yun and Film Emperor Qin are working together. It's actually true. Thank you, Teacher Yun, for speaking up for my brother Yu. Not long after, one of Qin Yu's haters commented sourly. How much did Qin Yu give you to work with him? But he didn't expect Yun to reply. Yun, how much? You don't even dare think about it. Seeing this news, the others were all amused. Ha 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 Yun, mind your own business. As expected of Yun. Ha 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 ha, I'm sorry. This is the first time I've seen a big shot speak. It feels so good. Her works are out in the industry, and even foreigners are crazy about Spring Night Banquet. You can't even imagine how many people have learned Country A's language because of this song. At this moment, Yang Xian, who was sitting in his office and surfing the internet, was shocked when he saw the series of headlines. Why didn't he know that Qin Yu and Yun were working together? President Yang, Yu Mandarin Studio called just now and asked us to send the score to them. His assistant ran over hurriedly. Yang Xian stuttered a little. Do any of us know Yun? You didn't invite her? The assistant was also stunned. P.S. Second update, remember the monthly votes. Chapter 726. Yang Xian was speechless. If he had the ability, would he still have to care about that old witch, Zhu Limin? Give me the phone first. Yang Xian took a deep breath and called Yu Mandarin Studio. However, he did not expect Yu Mandarin to answer the call. Yu Mandarin bit his apple and spoke incoherently. Who are you? Yang Xian felt that this voice was a little familiar. I'm Yang Xian from Qin Yu Studio. You are, oh, I'm Yu Mandarin. Send me that score. The song over there, Yu Mandarin said, Yun is urging me. I want to know why Yun is working with us. Yu Mandarin felt that this Yang Xian was very talkative, but he smiled slightly. Of course it's because she values the best actor's talent, dear. Yang Xian was speechless. Although Qin Yu was indeed talented, he shouldn't be valued by Yun, I know. It's because of Qin Youjiao. Yang Xian's mind lit up and he immediately reacted. Yun and Qin Youjiao were both in the International Musicians Association. Perhaps Qin Youjiao had secretly begged them. I'm your mother. Yu Mandarin almost cursed. She took a deep breath and said with a smile, our Yun has nothing to do with some people. With that said, Yu Mandarin hung up the call angrily. Yang Xian was still confused. So, who exactly could invite Yun, this great god? Turning around, Yang Xian saw his assistant in deep thought. What's wrong? Yang Xian asked. I have a feeling that Miss Pei might be a coy. The assistant said confidently, she said last time that we could invite Yun. Look, she's here. Yang Xian was speechless. The next time the department recruited people, they should really add a rule that they were not allowed to be superstitious. Go and inform Qin Yu about this. Yang Xian rubbed between his eyebrows. It was good that the matter could be resolved. Wu Zhouwen later, when Zhu Limin heard about this, her expression darkened. Where did Qin Yu get the connections to contact Yun? Although Yun had been writing songs for Yu Mandarin was just a grassroots singer. Back then, he was not very popular and did not have any background. However, ever since Yun became Yu Mandarin's exclusive composer, Yu Mandarin's popularity remained high and even had influence overseas. It was said that they were number one in the country in the first half of the year. However, after Yun made Yu Mandarin popular, many artists with powerful backgrounds contacted Yun, but they were ignored. However, she did not expect Yun to work with Qin Yu. Furthermore, This time, Fei Yi's album was released in the same month as Qin Yu's album. Wouldn't she lose for sure? Yun. Fei Yi also did not expect Yun to work with Qin Yu at this time. He glanced at Zhu Limin and smiled. Then let's release the album as soon as possible. Since she couldn't compare to Qin Yu anyway, why should she release an album with Qin Yu? Zhu Limin's expression didn't look too good. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't. Indeed. Qin Yu had Yun producing an album. It was impossible for the sales to catch up. Zhu Limin was already starting to regret arguing with Qin Yu impulsively back then. After all, Qin Yu's popularity was still there. Even if the album she produced this time was not good, the sales would definitely be enough. However, Fei Yi was different. The purchasing power of fans could not compare to Qin Yu's family at all. She was going to lose. How could she compare to Yun? Zhu Limin's face was pale. When Qin Yu heard this news, he was also very surprised. However, the first person who appeared in his mind was Bai Yunj. Chapter 727. His Gu-er seemed to have a good relationship with Yumanran. Qin Yu's eyes darkened and his Adam's apple bobbed. Did Gu help him? Actually, Qin Yu also knew that the president of the International Musicians Association, Du Xiao, liked Bai Yunj a lot. However, in Qin Yu's heart, he did not have the right to ask Gu-er for help. In this life, he only wanted to protect his family and Gu-er. Qin Yu opened the conversation with Bai Yunj and started to type. Qin Yu, Gu-er, I. Halfway through, Qin Yu's dark eyes were expressionless. He licked his lips and deleted all the input. He only sent a sticker to Bai Yunj and asked about Bai Yunj's recent situation. On the other side, Bai Yunj glanced at Qin Yu's message but did not have the time to reply. She sat in a spacious and bright office. On the right was a French window and the scenery outside was bustling. After a while, a man in a white coat walked over. It was Cui Hengchuan. I'm very surprised that Miss Pei would take the initiative to come over. Cui Hengchuan laughed and sat behind his desk, looking at Bai Yunj with warm eyes. However, Bai Yunj had never liked psychiatrists. Especially the psychiatrist who treated her. Elder Zhong is still waiting for my medical records. Bai Yunj slowly crushed the candy on the tip of her tongue. Cui Hengchuan did not mind. Bai Yunj's attitude had always been indifferent. Instead, he smiled and said, "What's the relationship between Miss Pei and that Mr. Jean?" Hearing this, Bai Yunj looked up halfway, her eyes filled with a bone-chilling coldness. I'm sorry, Miss Pei. I heard that you're staying with him. I need a reasonable analysis. This was also one of the reasons why Bai Yunj did not like psychiatrists. Passion, as you can see. Bai Yunj smiled faintly. She also wanted to know how this psychiatrist was compared to the psychiatrist she knew in her previous life. Cui Hengchuan looked down, his thin glasses hiding the strange look in his eyes. You like him? The other person in the room did not comment. Suddenly, Cui Hengchuan's lips curved. But Miss Pei, I need to remind you. Do you think he will accept a crippled person? Bai Yunj looked up. The coldness in her eyes was obvious. Miss Pei's research ability is indeed amazing. I believe that Miss Pei will gain an unprecedented reputation in this area. Cui Hengchuan smiled faintly. The premise is that you can survive. Did you think that I would commit suicide? Bai Yunj smiled mysteriously. Cui Hengchuan didn't answer the question. Instead, his voice was still gentle. I have two patients who are as talented as Miss Pei. Of course, this was far from being comparable to Miss Pei. One of them was the painter. Due to the long period of oppression in his heart, he had gone completely mad. One of them was a researcher like Miss Pei. Because her husband cheated on her, she killed her husband and finally committed suicide. After saying this, Shui Hengchuan was observing Bei Yunzhe's expression, but he didn't see anything strange. Shui Hengchuan, are you sure you want to treat me? Bei Yunzhe suddenly raised his eyes and looked at him calmly. Shui Hengchuan was stunned for a moment, but the next second, he smiled. Miss Pei should be able to tell that I do have a good impression of you. I will ask Elder Zhong to find me another psychiatrist. I will go and pay the consultation fee first. Bei Yunzhe didn't look at Shui Hengchuan and planned to leave. Miss Pei, if you don't like it, I won't do anything to you that I shouldn't do. This is the professional ethics of a doctor. Shui Hengchuan added, and I am the most suitable psychiatrist to be Miss Pei's. Chapter 728. If Miss Pei's identity is exposed, how dangerous will it be? Perhaps Miss Pei knows? Shui Hengchuan continued, of course, I'm not threatening Miss Pei. I just feel that Miss Pei doesn't have to be unwilling to accept my treatment just because she hates me. You have to know that Mr. Zhong Xinglin is very concerned about you. Bei Yunzhe glanced at him. Not long after. Bei Yunzhe sat in front of him again. She picked up the pen on the table and twirled it between her fingers. His tone was indifferent. Dr. Cui, you should hide your emotions. I don't like people looking at me like that. Is that so? Then what's the way he looks at you like? Shui Hengchuan smiled. Men could not hide their possessiveness towards the prey they were interested in. He knew very well that this was a man's bad nature. But he could not avoid it. The way he looks at me. Bei Yunzhe's brows relaxed and the corners of his lips curved. It's quite scary. These words made Shui Hengchuan unable to maintain his gentle smile. Muse bar. It's all done. Do as you see fit. Yu Hanran placed the key on the table and moved it towards Huashidu. What a waste. He had gotten a top-notch research lab just to give it to Bei Yunzhe. Yu Hanran took a sip of wine to restrain his jealousy. Yes, thank you. Huashidu took the key and put it in his pocket. You're already at Muse. Don't leave so quickly, right? Yu Hanran said faintly, I've been attending all the recent dinners. Aren't you going to drink with me today? Hearing this, the man glanced at him casually with his pale-colored eyes. Yu Hanran instantly felt guilty. What are you doing? I'm not drinking, the man said unhurriedly. Then, he held a cigarette between his slender and good-looking fingers and shook the ash off casually. His posture was lazy and light, and the corners of his eyes were a little seductive. The women around him who were secretly sizing him up could not help but feel their hearts beating faster. However, what the man was thinking was that after he drank a few times, the little girl was not very happy the next day. I see. Yu Hanran looked a little guilty today. He turned his head away and his eyes drifted. Actually, someone else came today. Huashidu looked up and waited for him to continue. This increased the pressure on Yu Hanran. Yu Hanran quickly lowered his head. Wen Zhouan. This time, Wen Zhouan chased him all the way to Yun City. He couldn't really do nothing. Then you two have a good chat. With that, Huashidu prepared to extinguish his cigarette and leave. Yu Hanran immediately said, You're not here for me. Why are you talking to me? Didn't you like her? Huashidu glanced at him and then at his watch, preparing to go back early. Then do you know who she likes? Yu Hanran's eyelid twitched. In the past, he had courted Wen Zhouan. After all, Wen Zhouan was publicly acknowledged to be beautiful, and her personality was impeccable. But she didn't like him either. Every time Wen Zhouan was willing to talk to him, it was because Huashidu was standing beside her. Even when she was talking to him, Wen Zhouan's gaze was always on Huashidu. What does that have to do with me? As soon as the man finished speaking, he received a message. Are you home yet? The man's thin red lips curled up and he quickly replied. Not yet. At this moment. Bei Yunzhe, who saw this message, looked at the time and narrowed her beautiful eyes. She quickly continued to type. Where are you? Her hand trembled and the question mark turned into an exclamation mark. She accidentally sent it out. Bei Yunj. Chapter 729. Why did she feel that something was amiss? Just as Bei Yunj was deep in thought, the man on the other side saw this message and the corners of his lips curled up. When Yu Hanran heard Huashidu's words, his eyelids twitched. He took a deep breath and immediately said, Shidu, can you face the fact that you're single? He didn't have a girlfriend yet. Immediately. Before Yu Hanran could finish speaking, he saw him press the voice button. The man's expression was languid as he casually put out the cigarette but with one hand. His deep and magnetic voice was low and hoarse with laughter, making one's ears itch. Yun, why are you so fierce? Yu Hanran was speechless. He was wrong. Huashidu was spending all his patience on coaxing his girlfriend on that child of his. At this moment, Bei Yunj clicked on the man's voice message without any psychological defenses. However, she heard the man's languid and magnetic voice, which had an additional texture of electricity, reverberating in her ears, making her blush and her heart race. Yun, why are you so fierce? Bei Yunj's heart skipped a beat. The next second, Huashidu called her. Bei Yunj was in the library. She could only stand up and walk outside to answer the call. Lu Yuanxi, who was beside her, saw that Bei Yunj walked out without saying anything. He instinctively wanted to tug at Bei Yunj's sleeve. However, he did not even touch her clothes. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. Is someone who has finished their summer homework so arrogant? Brother Lu, are you done with your foreign language homework? I'm almost done with my math homework. Chu Zhixing pushed Lu Yuanxi. School was about to start. Did he still care if Master Pei was arrogant or not? Soon. Look at what Master Pei wrote. It's even simpler than the standard answer. Lu Yuanxi could not help but complain. After finishing their foreign language homework, Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing naturally exchanged the homework in their hands. At the door, Bei Yunj picked up the call and heard a man's voice clearly coming from the noisy environment. Yun? Huashidu should be at a bar or something. Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment. Brother, you didn't drink, did you? The man suddenly lowered his voice and chuckled. Then, he adjusted his emotions. Not yet. But President Yu is holding a drinking party, so I can't leave. Yu Hanran, who was beside him, heard Huashidu slander him without batting an eyelid. You can't leave? Didn't you reject him very straightforwardly? Bei Yunj couldn't help but frown. He felt more and more that Yu Hanran was not a human being. Then I'll come pick you up. After hearing a satisfactory answer, the man narrowed his lazy and indifferent peach blossom eyes. The corners of his upturned eyes became even more seductive. On the surface, she was still quite polite. Sorry to trouble you, Yun. Bei Yunj, she felt that there was something wrong with this man. At this very moment, Yu Hanran put on a fake smile. Master Du, do you know what you just said? Let's go. I'll drink with you. The man stood up and walked to the private room. But at this moment, Yu Hanran only felt that he was definitely going to take the blame. That little girl from Master Du's family was probably going to kill him, but in the next moment, Yu Hanran reacted again. He had just called Wen Zhewan over. If Bei Yunj came over, wouldn't something happen? That little vixen from Master Du's family was definitely not someone to be trifled with. Yu Hanran's scalp went numb. However, what should have happened still happened. Huashidu and Yu Hanran had just walked to the long corridor when they heard a soft shout. Hanran. Yu Hanran turned around and saw Wen Zhewan wearing a silver-white dress and a pair of high heels. She looked even better than a few years ago. P.S. End of update. Chapter 730. Wen Jiuan smiled at Yu Hanran and her gaze returned to the man. Compared to a few years ago, the man seemed to have become more mature. He had lost his youthfulness, but his light and indifferent appearance was as cold and unreachable as before. He was a mature and handsome man with a tall figure. He was wearing a neat handmade suit, and his long and slender legs were too abstinent. He was the center of attention wherever he went. President Hua. Wen Jiuan smiled naturally, but her palms were sweaty from nervousness. Hua Shidu glanced at her, then at Yu Hanran. He very consciously walked in. At this moment. Only then did Yu Hanran realize that he had not explained it clearly to Hua Shidu. Hua Shidu still thought that Wen Jiuan was here to look for him, right? Yu Hanran's eyelids twitched. Before he could stop Hua Shidu, Wen Jiuan, who was beside him, pulled up her long hair that she had meticulously taken care of. He's still the same. He refuses to look at anyone. Jiuan, Shidu might, Yu Hanran stiffened slightly. There's also a very special existence. Previously, he was most likely teasing Bei Yunj and Hua Shidu. But now, he had to admit that Hua Shidu might not really treat that young lady as a junior. Perhaps, he had other thoughts. How special is he? Wen Jiuan's heart seemed to have been knocked by something. She felt a little stuffy, but she quickly regained her smile. He doesn't have a girlfriend yet, right? He doesn't, but Yu Hanran did not know what to say halfway through his sentence. And when Jiuan had come all the way to Yuncheng, it was impossible for her to give up her purpose of coming just because a very special person had appeared beside Hua Shidu. Then I want to see how special he is too. Wen Jiuan smiled, hiding a trace of darkness in her eyes. Actually, she still had a trump card this time. She did not want to let go of the person she could not let go of when she was young. After Bei Yunj took a taxi over, the person at the door welcomed her to the private room. However, she did not expect to see Hua Shidu after pushing open the door of the private room. At a glance, she saw that they were all men in their 20s or 30s. There was only one delicate woman in a white dress. Pei, Master Pei, you're here so early? Yu Hanran was a little surprised and couldn't help but stutter. Bei Yunja's beautiful phoenix eyes glanced at Yu Hanran casually. Her slender fingers gently pulled down the black mask, revealing a bright and languid face, which was stunning. Where is he? At this time, Wen Jiuan also noticed Bei Yunj. After seeing Bei Yunja's eyebrows clearly, she was even more stunned. What a beautiful girl! Among the people Wen Jiuan had met, there were countless beautiful people, but the girl in front of her was the first one who stunned her at first glance. Not only her appearance, even her temperament was impeccable. Inexplicably, Wen Jiuan's hand that was holding the wine glass trembled. Master Du? He went out for a while. He has something to do. Yu Hanran laughed dryly. He felt that the way Bei Yunj looked at him wasn't very friendly. As expected. Bei Yunj thought for a moment and looked at Yu Hanran again. Her eyes curved. You dragged my brother to drink? Hearing this, Wen Jiuan, who was beside her, paused and instinctively looked at Bei Yunj. Brother? What did she mean? Wen Jiuan knew Hua Shidu's identity very well. Hua Shidu only had one younger brother. Yu Hanran was speechless. Master Du, I hate you. P.S. Did you guys cast your monthly votes today? Pinch. Chapter 731. Maybe. Yu Hanran braced himself and took the blame for this. Bei Yunj took off her mask and casually stuffed it into her pocket. She then walked to the side, picked up 2 glasses with one hand, and skillfully opened a bottle of wine. Then I'll drink with President Yu first. The girl's bright eyes were flamboyant and unbridled. Her clear eyes were unruly, but there was no smile on her face. Yu Hanran hesitated. He had a bad premonition. Actually, Yu Hanran's alcohol tolerance wasn't bad. It could even be said that he was a rare opponent. There was no need to be afraid of a little girl. But looking at Bei Yunj in front of him, he didn't dare to really drink with Bei Yunj. What if Master Du came back and thought that he was bullying his little girl and argued with him about this? Yu Hanran thought for a moment and decided to give in to Bei Yunj. It shouldn't be difficult for him to pretend to be drunk. Sure. Yu Hanran nodded, thinking that he would just pour half a glass later. But he didn't expect to see Bei Yunj fill the entire glass with wine. Yu Hanran was speechless. This is King whiskey. You really dare to play? Yu Hanran felt a little hot in his abdomen after drinking a glass. On the other hand, Bei Yunj seemed to be drinking Coke. Her eyes were clear and she wasn't affected at all. Isn't this person from Master Du's family a little too secretive? President Yu, continue. Bei Yunj curled her lips and thought for a moment. Then, she took 4 glasses and slowly arranged them in 2 rows. She then took a bottle of wine over. This scene caused Yu Hanran to fall silent. We don't have to play so big, right? Yu Hanran took a deep breath and said with a fake smile. The surrounding people were also shocked by this delicate and beautiful girl. Isn't such a beautiful girl's alcohol tolerance a little too high? President Yu, are you afraid of losing? Bei Yunj's casual words made Yu Hanran forget about acting. This question was related to a man's dignity. Then come on. Yu Hanran also stood up, picked up the wine on the table, and began to drink glass by glass. When Jiuan was stunned and immediately asked, Yu Hanran? This was a strong liquor with a high alcohol content. I'm fine. Yu Hanran wiped the corner of his mouth and continued to drink. Bei Yunj, who was standing in front of him, also finished the next glass of wine unhurriedly. The scene was inexplicably silent. Not long after. As soon as Huashidu returned, he saw Yu Hanran lying drunk beside him in the private room. The man frowned slightly and glanced at Yu Hanran with his pale-colored eyes. In the end, his gaze landed on another person and he couldn't look away. Allow, before Huashidu could finish speaking, he heard Wen Jiuan say anxiously, President Hua, I'm afraid Hanran won't be able to go back since he's so drunk. Hearing Wen Jiuan's words, Huashidu's gaze landed on Yu Hanran again. He was quite surprised. Yu Hanran's alcohol tolerance had always been very good. In drinking games, he could hold off 3 people at once. This was the first time she had seen him so drunk. Tseng Su. After Huashidu shouted, he walked in front of Bei Yunj without waiting for Wen Jiuan to speak. Where did you come from? Huashidu lowered his eyes casually. His gaze gradually deepened as he bent down and leaned closer to her, sniffing the girl's neck. He lowered his voice and asked, Yunyun, have you been drinking? Bei Yunj looked to be in good condition. His gaze was clear and he did not look like he was drunk. P.S. There's more. Chapter 732. I just came back from the library. President Yu's brother drank. The girl was beautiful, but when she looked up, her eyes were clear and seductive. Actually, Bei Yunj still had the smell of mint candy on her, and the smell of alcohol was not too strong. She didn't know why this man's nose was so sharp. At this moment, that, President Yu older brother, made everyone present freeze. They stared at Bei Yunj in front of them in disbelief. She called him President Yu when she was drinking, but when Master Du came, he became President Yu's brother? Don't you know why President Yu drank and even drank to this extent? Similarly, when Jiuan also stared at Huashidu and Bei Yunj and unconsciously bit her lip. The man's action of leaning close to the girl just now could already be said to be ambiguous. So, was the special person Yu Hanran was talking about this girl? Huashidu glanced at the dozen bottles of whiskey on the table and raised his eyebrows without saying a word. I can still drink. The drunk Yu Hanran burped and opened his eyes in a daze. He wanted to stand up and pour himself some wine. When Jiuan immediately pulled Yu Hanran back. Stop drinking, Hanran, you're drunk. Nonsense. Yu Hanran said righteously and pointed at a few bottles of tequila. Master Pei, drink. Come. Let's drink. After saying that, Yu Hanran stumbled to get the wine. Bei Yunj was speechless. She was too careless. Tseng Su, who was about to support Yu Hanran, was also silent. So, half of the alcohol just now was Miss Pei's doing? Was this something a normal girl would do? At this moment, Bei Yunj did not look at Huashidu. She turned around calmly and walked out. I'm going to the washroom. Bei Yunj washed her hands and soon saw the woman in the mirror. It was the woman in the private room just now. Miss, your surname is Pei? Wen Jiuan asked. Yes. Bei Yunj retracted her gaze and replied lazily. My name is Wen Jiuan, an alumnus of Hanran and President Hua, Wen Jiuan said with a smile. Bei Yunj answered without looking up. Although the girl in front of her was young, she was very calm. Wen Jiuan wanted to say something but hesitated. When Bei Yunj was about to leave, she suddenly asked, Aren't you curious? What's my relationship with them? Bei Yunj stopped and glanced at Wen Jiuan. The corners of her lips curled up. What do you want to say? At this moment, Wen Jiuan realized that she did not know this girl at all. Even in a few exchanges, she was at a disadvantage. Wen Jiuan smiled. President Hua used to be very popular in our school. There are many people who like him, but very few dare to confess. It was not because of anything else, but because this man, whether it was his identity or his ability, made people feel that he was out of reach. Even she was the same. Bei Yunj looked at Wen Jiuan calmly without any strange emotions on her face. Miss Pei, you're not saying anything? Wen Jiuan asked. Bei Yunj curled her lips. What does Miss Wen want me to say? These words completely shut Wen Jiuan up. Her face stiffened for a moment before she smiled and said, That's true. Miss Pei is still young. President Hua might also treat Miss Pei as his biological sister. Miss Wen, it sounds quite exciting when you say that. Bei Yunj laughed, her lazy eyes bright and charming. Just as Wen Jiuan subconsciously clenched her fists, Bei Yunj asked unhurriedly, So Miss Wen likes my brother so much? Chapter 733. Wen Jiuan, whose thoughts had been exposed, froze. Then, just as Bei Yunj felt that Miss Wen might not answer, Bei Yunj had just turned around when she heard the person behind her say. Wen Jiuan's gaze was firm. I chased him from Nili to Yuncheng for him. Back in the private room, Bei Yunj's expression was relaxed. She lowered her eyes, but her heart felt a little stuffy for some reason. It was not because of Wen Jiuan, who had chased him from Nili to Yuncheng, but because she had never seen Huashidu at the age of 18. Soon. Bei Yunj had just returned to her seat when she saw that her cup seemed to have been touched by someone. She subconsciously picked up the cup. This, Tseng Su reminded him softly, Master Du drank it. Tseng Su did not intend to stop him at all. He even felt that it was very normal. Bei Yunj, this is Volt Te plus. Vodka did not have any taste or color, so Bei Yunj poured a cup into it. After all, she had not drunk for a long time. However, she did not expect Huashidu to drink half of it. She had flipped. Bei Yunj subconsciously turned to look at Huashidu. A moment later. Assistant Tseng, I haven't finished my summer homework. It's time to go home. With that, Bei Yunj wanted to turn around and pull the man away. But when she turned around, she saw the man lick his thin red lips and pick up the cup again. The man's actions when drinking were very flirtatious, so much so that Bei Yunj could not react in time to snatch the cup. Bei Yunj, this time, it was really her fault. However, when she saw Huashidu finish the entire cup of vodka, Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. Brother, let's go back. Bei Yunj pulled Huashidu and said softly. Suddenly, Wen Jiuan pursed her lips and smiled. Are you going back so early? The man only glanced at Wen Jiuan indifferently before his gaze landed on Bei Yunj. His expression did not change, and no one knew if he was drunk or not. Bei Yunj took a deep breath and asked Huashidu, brother, are you leaving? After that, the man merely loosened his tie lazily. His sexy Adam's apple bobbed, and that mole made her blush and her heart race. But he didn't pay any attention to her. Bei Yunj, okay. Bei Yunj took a deep breath and motioned for Tsing Su to come over. He drank. Bei Yunj said after a moment of silence. No. Tsing Su thought that Bei Yunj was suspecting that Huashidu was drinking behind her back, so he explained seriously, Miss Pei, I promise that Master Du only drank the water in your cup when he came in. Bei Yunj, that's vodka. Tsing Su, all of a sudden. Tsing Su froze and looked at Bei Yunj. What did you say? Bei Yunj glanced at Huashidu, who was not in a strange state, and immediately said, should we take him away as soon as possible? Master Du is fine after drinking. He just doesn't like to talk. Tsing Su had been with Huashidu for so long, but he didn't notice anything strange about Huashidu after drinking. He just didn't like to talk to people. Bei Yunj, ? Miss Pei, believe me. Master Du won't go crazy after drinking, and he won't do anything out of line. Tsing Su said softly, there's still half an hour before the drinking party ends. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched, and she looked at Huashidu beside her. He wasn't crazy after drinking, but he wouldn't do anything out of line. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched, and she sat beside Yu Hanran again. Seeing that Yu Hanran was still a little groggy, she gently handed him a glass of vodka. P.S. Ahem, I fell asleep halfway through yesterday. I'll continue to make up for it now. Be good, remember the monthly votes. Our ranking has dropped badly. Chapter 734. Everyone watched helplessly as this unbelievably beautiful girl did not do what a person should do. Indeed. Yu Hanran laughed foolishly and burped again. After drinking, he collapsed completely. Wen Jiuan's eyes widened subconsciously. Yu Hanran was already so drunk, yet she still gave him alcohol? It's just a man drinking some wine. Bei Yunj smiled disapprovingly. Her lazy appearance left a deep impression on the people in the private room, and the hair on their backs stood on end. This was the first time they had seen someone who dared to drink President Yu. For some reason, ever since Bei Yunj appeared, they did not dare to say much. At this moment, seeing that Yu Hanran had finally fallen asleep and his breathing was even, Bei Yunj also turned her head. She did not expect the man not far away to be looking at her with dark eyes. His eyes were so dark that it was hard to tell. Just as Bei Yunj was about to speak, Huashidu turned his face away again. It was as if he did not want to talk to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, what was he throwing a tantrum about? It was indeed a little boring to stay in the private room. Bei Yunj glanced at Tsing Su beside her and gestured with her eyes for him to take good care of Huashidu. Then, she pushed open the door and went outside to get some fresh air. In the hall on the first floor, under the strange lights, there was a dance floor in the middle. The music was even more numbing than the cocktails on the bar counter. Bei Yunj sat at the bar counter and quickly attracted the attention of many people. Miss, what would you like to drink? Black Russian. Bei Yunj looked at the list on the wall and randomly chose one. The bartender was a little surprised. Quite a young girl could drink such strong wine. Miss, this wine is quite strong. The bartender reminded her kindly. Bei Yunj smiled. Yes, thank you. All right, please wait a moment. The bartender nodded and went to prepare the cocktail again. But not long after, Bei Yunj felt that someone was looking at her and subconsciously turned her head. She did not expect to almost bump into Huashidu. Bei Yunj asked, why did you come out? After saying that, Bei Yunj did not see Tseng Su beside Huashidu. She frowned. "Brother, where's Tseng Su?" The man did not answer her. Under the light, Bei Yunj inadvertently lowered her gaze, but even the man's thin white shirt and strong waist were faintly discernible. His eyebrows were indifferent and noble, but his temperament was extremely lustful. He was surrounded by ladies who were looking at the man. "Brother, you go back first." Bei Yunj subconsciously pushed the man away, but she didn't expect him to suddenly move closer to her. His eyes were so dark that even the light was hidden. It was hard to tell what he was thinking, but it was seductive. His posture was casual and lazy. He gently put down the bar behind her and held her waist with one hand. "Brother," before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, the man bent down and rubbed his warm and fair forehead against hers intimately. His voice was low and hoarse, but it was also seductive. "Yun Yun," Bei Yunj felt a numbing electric current jump from her forehead to her entire body, and her entire body went limp. Her ears burned even more. This was much more deadly than 10 bottles of whiskey. When the young women at the side saw this scene, they almost screamed because of this man. Where did this domineering CEO brother come from? Wasn't this too much? Bei Yunj calmed down and looked at Huashidu again. She negotiated, "Brother, let go of me first." The man did not speak. Bei Yunj finally understood. After this man was drunk, he pretended not to hear things that he did not want to hear. P.S. The recent chapters will be sweet, and Master Du will be cuter than usual today. Be obedient and say that you like Master Du. You have to work hard on the rankings. Master Du's scenes are in your hands. Chapter 735. Bei Yunj could not do anything to him and could only continue to reason with him. "Then I'll go back with you." Hearing this, the man finally let go of Bei Yunj. His aggressive aura dissipated, but he was still holding her hand. Bei Yunj's right hand was held and it was inconvenient for her to take the money. She rummaged through Huashidu's pocket and took out a black wallet. She pressed a few banknotes on the bar counter. However, after she left, Bei Yunj suddenly came back to her senses. "Brother, you didn't react at all when I took your wallet?" Huashidu looked at her lazily and turned his head. "Yes." Bei Yunj, however, to Bei Yunj, this was a serious problem. Hence, Bei Yunj stopped Huashidu in front of her and looked up. She said seriously, "Brother, you can't give this to others." After thinking for a moment, she added, "The things in the wallet are used to exchange for important things. You can't casually." Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, Huashidu stuffed a black wallet into her hand. She looked up instinctively and coincidentally met the man's inexplicably deep eyes. Only then did she realize that the man's eyes were slightly red. He curled his lips and naturally wrapped his hands around the girl's slender waist, pressing her into a corner. He was very aggressive. His bewitching voice and low and hoarse laughter rang in her ears. He was hopelessly sexy. "Can I change it to Yun Yun?" At this moment, Bei Yunj was already tensed up. However, the man even rubbed against her neck gently. Every movement was stimulating her senses. It was extremely dangerous. "Yun Yun, you smell so good." At this moment, the tense string in Bei Yunj's mind completely collapsed. This time, she had really made this man drink too much. It was vodka. "Don't talk later." Bei Yunj's voice was a little hoarse. She subconsciously licked her lips and pulled him into the private room. She did not know if Huashidu had heard her. However, it was indeed more awkward outside. Back in the private room. "Baidu." Bei Yunj suddenly realized that something was wrong. "Who kicked you, Hanran? Where did the footprints come from?" However, Yu Hanran himself was still in a deep sleep and had no idea what had happened. Only Tseng Su felt excited and scared. His eyelids twitched. After Miss Pei went out, Master Du suddenly stood up and kicked President Yu, who did nothing. Then, he went out to do something. Now that he knew the answer, he was going to look for Miss Pei. However, seeing the scene of Yu Hanran being kicked just now, Zheng Su didn't dare to follow Huashidu. This was really the first time Huashidu had drunk alcohol, and he had done something very unexpected. Director Yu, what's going on? Bei Yunj thought about it and still cared about Yu Hanran. Everyone looked behind Bei Yunj. Their posture was lazy, and they glanced at Huashidu indifferently. They did not dare to speak. Wen Jiuan was even more stunned. She could not figure out why Huashidu wanted to hit Yu Hanran. The next moment, Bei Yunj was pulled to his seat by Huashidu. He did not care about Yu Hanran's life or death. At this moment, Zheng Su started to hesitate. Did Master Du kick President Yu just now because Miss Pei was sitting beside President Yu? Zheng Su, who seemed to know the truth, was speechless. In the future, he had to stay away from Miss Pei and cherish his life. I'll call President Yu's secretary. Zheng Su immediately said. Wen Jiuan hesitated for a moment and looked at Huashidu again. In the end, she pursed her lips and fell silent. P.S. Reader Group, 6159948832. Chapter 736. Everyone watched as Huashidu calmly led her to his seat. They had already lost their ability to speak. When Bei Yunj sensed everyone's gaze, she lowered her head and played with her phone without changing her expression. The man looked at her for a while. His eyes darkened even more, and he seemed a little displeased. He leaned lazily on the sofa. His eyes were dark as he stared straight at her. The collar of his white shirt was loosened, and he exuded a lustful and frivolous aura. Bei Yunj was still adjusting her state of mind. She did not want to look at this man at all. But in the next moment, the man beside her suddenly said, Yun, you seem to be blushing. You're mistaken. Bei Yunj did not even look up. The more this man talked to her, the more excited he became. Is that so? However, when the man heard this, the corners of his lips curled up. He suddenly lowered his voice and laughed. Then I'll take a good look again. As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj had just looked up when the man suddenly covered the back of her snow-white neck with one hand, making her unable to move. Huashidu suddenly pressed forward. The cold and pleasant smell on his body filled the surroundings again. Huashidu. Bei Yunj subconsciously gritted her teeth. Her beautiful eyes narrowed slightly as she called out in a voice that the two of them could hear clearly. However, the man continued to ignore her. His hand on the back of Bei Yunj's neck gently stroked her long hair. In the eyes of others, this action was also very possessive. At this moment, Bei Yunj heard the man's bewitching laughter. The man's lips curved, and the tip of his nose brushed past her ear. He leaned close to her casually, and his voice was lazy and flirtatious. Yes, you're not blushing. But Yun, why are you trembling? Bei Yunj was instantly angered. Huashidu, do you think I should record this time? When Wen Jiuan saw this scene, her entire body was trembling and her expression was ugly. From an angle that Bei Yunj could not see, she could clearly see the smile in the man's eyes as he teased the girl. This was the first time she realized that a man was not forever untouchable. At least he had another side when he was with that girl. Wen Jiuyan had to admit it. Yu Hanran was right. There was a very special existence by Huashidu's side. Wen Jiuan took a deep breath and watched as Huashidu walked behind Bei Yunj. Her legs felt like lead and she could not catch up. On the long corridor, Bei Yunj turned on the recording mode of his phone expressionlessly and waved it in front of Huashidu. As a warning. Tell this man to behave himself. Miss Pei, I'll go get the car. Zheng Su hurriedly went to get the car. Yu Hanran's secretary had just come over and asked in disbelief, who is it? Who did it? Who kicked our boss Yu? Bei Yunj subconsciously looked at Huashidu. She thought for a moment and denied her own thoughts. She left the bar with Huashidu. Outside the door, Huashidu behaved himself, but Bei Yunj didn't want to talk to him anymore. What happened just now was still vivid in his mind. After getting into the car, Bei Yunj sat on the right while the man sat on the left. His well-defined hand tugged at his tie impatiently. Huashidu leaned against his seat lazily. His gaze landed on Bei Yunj casually. Bei Yunj looked at him and took a deep breath without batting an eyelid. She changed her phone again. At this moment, the man took out his phone casually and started playing. Bei Yunj, was this D*MN man deliberately going against her today? Chapter 737. Bei Yunj simply turned her head and stuffed her phone into her pocket. She did not want to reply to any messages. Not long after, Bei Yunj felt her phone vibrate. The atmosphere in the car was quiet and the sound was quite clear. But she did not intend to look at it. The man's posture was light and his eyes were half dark and seductive. Yun, someone is looking for you. Okay. Bei Yunj could not be bothered to turn her head and did not want to talk to him. Not long after, he suddenly asked, "Is it a man?" Bei Yunj, this D*MN man was so troublesome. She turned to look at him and smiled. She unlocked the screen in front of him. Then, she opened the message. It was sent by the man in front of her. Yun, brother wants to teach you how to kiss. Okay? After Bei Yunj finished reading it, her ears quickly heated up and a string in her mind snapped. She subconsciously looked up and saw that the man was so happy that even the mole on his Adam's apple was trembling with laughter. He was hopelessly sexy. She looked at the man's originally cold eyes. The corners of his upturned eyes were seductive and flirtatious. Her gaze seemed to be scalded and she quickly turned her head away. However, the man's low and hoarse chuckle, with a hint of frivolity, still rang in her ears. The man's wicked and lustful appearance was simply irresistible. Bei Yunj lowered the temperature on her face. Only then did she look at the drunk and lazy man beside her and smile. She turned on the recording mode again and turned the camera around. She held the man's hand and looked at the camera. In the camera, the girl's eyes were bright and unruly. The handsome and noble man beside her had a light and lazy posture. Her pair of excessively beautiful eyes curved. "Come, brother, what do you want to say?" "Good Chinese, right?" Bei Yunj had made up her mind to let Huashidu know a brand new version of herself. She curled her red lips again. In the man's eyes, they were bright and vivid. "Brother, don't miss the opportunity. Think about it carefully." Yun? Bei Yunj had just turned her head when the man suddenly grabbed her slender waist and held her hand that was holding the phone with one hand. The corners of his thin red lips curled up as he gently sucked on her snow-white earlobe. His warm, ticklish breath sprayed onto her sensitive skin as he nibbled and rubbed against her, causing her to lose her rationality. Bei Yunj's heart skipped a beat for no reason. She felt a tingling sensation on the back of her neck, making her unable to come back to her senses. The phone also fell to the ground. At this moment, the man's magnetic voice was particularly bewitching. It was ostentatious and ambiguous. Sue shook the wind beside her ear. Yun, don't you want a brother?" His low laughter seemed to be able to make her ears burn. "Don't be afraid. Big brother can teach Yun how to tame me." After saying this, Bei Yunj's heart seemed to have been hit by something, and her heart was beating very fast. Back home, Bei Yunj still took Huashidu's phone. The man's phone had no password. Other than a few simple apps, there was nothing else. Bei Yunj opened the message record and deleted the 2 messages from just now. After doing this, Bei Yunj returned to her room and took a shower. After coming out, she inexplicably thought of the video just now. She opened her phone and looked at the video. From another angle, when she saw the possessiveness in the man's eyes, her heart still beat faster. She narrowed her eyes and suppressed the restless heartbeat in the latter half of the night. She wanted to delete the video. But a moment later, she stopped and transferred the video to a private space. P.S. Let's sort out the outline. I think it will be updated in the afternoon. Chapter 738. This video was quite pleasing to the eye. When the video was being recorded in the car, Bei Yunj did not react. Huashidu held her hand and the camera happened to capture the man's handsome and abstinent side profile. Thinking of this, Bei Yunj felt that her heart was beating too fast and her face was inexplicably hot. Yun, don't you want brother? What's there to be afraid of? Brother can teach Yun how to tame me. Bei Yunj subconsciously went downstairs to pour herself a glass of cold water. She only calmed down after drinking half a glass. However, she would probably only be able to sleep very late. The next day, Bei Yunj did not expect that because of what Huashidu did yesterday, she could not sleep for half the night, so she woke up late. However, she did not expect that the two people who drank too much yesterday would wake up very early. I'm puzzled. Why does my back hurt so much after drinking? Yu Hanran touched his back. When he had just woken up, his face was contorted in pain. Huashidu was indifferent and noble, so he was not interested in this question. The next moment, Yu Hanran's sharp eyes saw Bei Yunj and his face was full of admiration. Master Pei, you're a god. As soon as he finished speaking, the man's gaze also turned to Bei Yunj, who was downstairs. Their gazes happened to meet. Bei Yunj walked up to them calmly, took a piece of bread and bit it in her mouth. Then, she took a glass of milk in a glass bottle and left. She only left behind a sentence that was neither light nor heavy. Brother, I'll go out first. Huashidu had drunk a lot yesterday and there was still a cup of coffee on the table. However, he was very familiar with Bei Yunj's state of ignoring him. However, last night, he did not drink on purpose. Who would have thought that the child's cup was filled with wine? What's wrong with your little girl? Yu Hanran could not help but ask. Nothing. Huashidu looked at Bei Yunj's back view as she left quickly. His slender and well-defined hand was still rubbing the keys. He did not find a chance to give it to her. Are you really fine? Yu Hanran was a little hesitant. He seemed to have seen Bei Yunj look at Huashidu just now and her ears seemed to have turned red for some reason. Yes. Huashidu thought for a moment and put the key back into his pocket. Computing Institute. Nancy had called Bei Yunj over today to introduce Bei Yunj to the Higgins group. However, when Bei Yunj arrived at the office, she didn't expect to see a familiar face when she opened the door. The man was handsome and wore a classic black suit, but he exuded a sense of gentleness and indifference. Coincidentally, Shang Yan looked up and saw Bei Yunj walking in. The corners of his lips curved slightly. Miss Pei. Bei Yunj regained her senses and nodded. Shang Yan? After saying this, it was Nancy's turn to be shocked. You two know each other? Originally, he was worried that Bei Yunj would not accept him when she saw that Shang Yan had a physical defect. However, he did not expect the two of them to know each other. Yes. Shang Yan smiled and looked at Bei Yunj. Do you still need to introduce yourself? Bei Yunj curled her lips and chuckled. President Shang, you're too polite. I'm looking forward to our collaboration. Hearing this, Shang Yan also smiled and the two of them looked at each other. They had some tacit understanding. Nancy did not expect things to develop so smoothly. After Bei Yunj listened to Shang Yan's explanation of the company, she also had a preliminary impression of the Higgins group. Did you already know that I was the one working with you? Bei Yunj was interested. Chapter 739. She added, or, it could be me. Shang Yan did not hide the reason and his lips only curved slightly. Hearing this, Bei Yunj did not think much of it. She smirked. Then let's work well together. Let's work well together. Shang Yan's eyes were gentle and elegant as he tightened his grip on the documents. But not long after, Bei Yunj left the computing institute. Shang Yan could not help laughing as he watched Bei Yunj leave. Shang Yan, you and Gu are. Nance could not react. We can be considered friends, Shang Yan said calmly. In the library, Bei Yunj walked in lazily with a yogurt straw in her mouth. However, she did not expect that only Lu Yuanci and Song Yao would see her. They had agreed to do homework together today, but Chu Zhixing was not around. Master Pei, what's wrong with your Xiao Chu? Why isn't he here for such an important occasion? Lu Yuanci was busy writing. He glanced at the lazy Bei Yunj and chuckled. Beside him, Song Yao had already finished her homework. The moment she arrived, she was helping Bei Yunj with the science questions. Are you sick? Bei Yunj sat beside Song Yao and handed them 2 bottles of yogurt. You were fine when you played games with me yesterday afternoon. Lu Yuanci frowned. Hearing this, Bei Yunj called Chu Zhixing directly, but she did not expect the person who answered the call to be a calm and dignified male voice. Hello? Bei Yunj paused for a second. Are you Chu Zhixing's father? That's right. Mr. Chu's emotions did not fluctuate. You're Bei Yunj, right? He changed the topic. Although I've never heard my son talk about you, he seems to listen to you. Miss Pei is indeed amazing at such a young age. This was obviously not a good thing. Bei Yunj only laughed lightly. Mr. Chu, you flatter me. He probably did not expect the person opposite him to have such a reaction. He was silent for a long time. Not long after, he suddenly said, if Miss Pei wants to see him, why don't you come to the Chu family? Mr. Chu gave him an address and hung up the phone. Lu Yuanci asked, what's wrong? I might have to go to his house to take a look. Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and looked at Song Yao. Yao, do you still have recording in the afternoon? Song Yao nodded and said with a smile, then I can only visit student Chu's house next time. I'll send you to get a taxi first. After Bei Yunj sent her off, Lu Yuanci teased him lazily, Master Pei, how did you manage to win over the Song family's eldest daughter? At first, he thought that Song Yao was just a good-looking girl who had a good relationship with Bei Yunj. However, he did not expect Song Yao to be the eldest young miss of the Song family who had an accident back then. I was abducted from Yun University. Bei Yunj glanced at her watch. You're going too? Lu Yuanci was displeased. Are you looking down on my friendship with Brother Chu? Bei Yunj. Whatever. Soon. When they arrived at the Chu family, Bei Yunj realized that Chu Zhixing's family background was not bad. At least, the residents in this area should be rich people who moved in decades ago. Lu Yuanci did not think much of it. After greeting the security guard, he walked straight to the front yard. However, he did not expect that there would be a gathering inside. The sudden intrusion of the two caused the piano to stop abruptly. Miss Pei, young Master Lu. Bo Jinxiao appeared slightly surprised, but a strange look quickly disappeared from her eyes. You're here. P.S. I'm here to catch up on my chapters. Chapter 740. The person who spoke was Chu Zhixing's father. At this moment, Bei Yunj suddenly received a call. After glancing at the number, he hung up. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes looked at him coldly. Mr. Chu. It was obvious that Bei Yunj did not like Chu Zhixing's father either. Mr. Chu also noticed this and raised his eyebrows. Go upstairs and take a look. Even after Bei Yunj left, Bo Jinxiao, who was sitting at the side, was ignored. Her expression was a little ugly and she could not maintain her smile. What Qin Luyan had said in front of her last time seemed to be vivid in her mind. In the past, she was just an orphan girl from the Bo family's side family. She had gradually been accepted by the Bo family with her talent since she was young. However, this girl had easily gotten what she wanted the most because of their blood relationship. Even a man like Qin Luyan could protect her. And she was still ignored by Bo Xiuchen after so many years. It had to be said. Bei Yunj was the person Bo Jinxiao hated the most in all these years. He made her feel even worse than Yu Manran back then. The emotions in Bo Jinxiao's heart that she could not suppress made her accidentally play the wrong note. Upstairs. Master Pei, why are you treating Uncle Chu like that? Lu Yuanci knew Mr. Chu. Although he felt that Mr. Chu looked strict, he did not dislike him. Do you know about Xiao Chu's inhibitor? Bei Yunj suddenly asked. Lu Yuanci said, yes. He only found out later that the drug Chu Zhixing had injected in the toilet was used to control his emotions. There's poison in it. Making Xiao Chu fat is only one of the side effects. If he uses it for another 2 years, he will only be in a vegetative state. With that said, Lu Yuanci was stunned. Then why did you let him continue using it? Lu Yuanci asked. Bei Yunj glanced at him. He's not using the Chu family's inhibitor now. Hearing this, Lu Yuanci heaved a sigh of relief. In the past, when he and Chu Zhixing didn't know each other, Lu Yuanci always thought that Chu Zhixing was injecting something addictive, so he didn't have the time to persuade people to do good. But later, he found out that Chu Zhixing was sick, and only suppressants could help him recover. However, Chu Zhixing also noticed that after Chu Zhixing and Bei Yunj got closer, Chu Zhixing had lost a lot of weight. In fact, because he often played basketball, he also had muscle lines. It was also rare to see Chu Zhixing fall ill. Master Pei, where did you get this? Lu Yuanci asked curiously. This isn't something that the Qin family can get their hands on, right? A friend gave it to me. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she glanced at the number that continued to insist on calling her and blocked it. Seeing this, Lu Yuanci, no wonder Bei Yunj's line was always busy when he sent messages to her. After knocking on the door, she pushed open the door to the bedroom on the second floor. Chu Zhixing was sitting on the sofa inside, and the smell of cigarettes lingered in the air. Bei Yunj looked up and saw a boy with well-defined eyebrows. His hair wasn't long, and his sideburns were short and neat. He had a noble appearance and was wearing a dark blue loose t-shirt. He had a cigarette in his hand and his eyes were indifferent. But when he looked up and saw that it was Bei Yunj, he immediately put out the cigarette and threw it into the trash can. Aren't you going to give me one? The corners of Bei Yunj's lips curled up. She glanced at the bandage on Chu Zhixing's arm and her gaze turned cold. What happened to your arm? Chu Zhixing's body froze. I accidentally fell. P.S. You've dropped off the rankings. Remember the monthly votes. Chapter 741. Bei Yunj looked at him for a while before her phone rang again. She licked her lips and hid the dark light in her eyes. She turned around and walked out to answer the call. What's the matter? At this moment, Lu Yuanci looked at him with a complicated expression. Brother Chu, every time you lie in front of Master Pei, you like to touch your ears. Chu Zhixing, in the long corridor. Max, I'm Kei, the founder of the Chaos. I want to invite you to join the Chaos. Kei had been calling for almost 2 months. Other than the first time he was picked up, this was the second time Bei Yunj picked up the phone. And this was the first time Bei Yunj had met such a troublesome person. She didn't know what Elder Zhong was thinking, but he actually gave him her phone number. I'm not free. Bei Yunj's expression was a little cold. She stood by the window and her tone was not good. When Kei was prepared to coax Bei Yunj to join, he did not expect this matter to go smoothly. However, as the most famous hacker organization in the world, Kei's eyelids could not help but twitch when he was despised like this. Max, think about it. If you're willing, I can introduce you to CI7. K had thrown out a rather big bait this time. CI7 was an intelligence agency set up in this continent. There were 6 branches, one of which was in Country A. They did not participate in any national disputes. They were mainly responsible for collecting information, analyzing, and processing. They maintained order in the continent and dealt with all terrorism and activities. However, it was also because such a mysterious agency knew too much information, which also caused many people to be afraid. Because they kept a low profile, not many people knew about them. What is CI7? Bei Yunj asked. The man sitting in the office twitched his eyelids. I really overestimated your ambition. I'll send you the information in a moment. As long as you're willing to join us, there will be a lot of benefits. The Chaos and CI7 did not have much contact, including K's. However, a few years ago, CI7 had an agreement with the Chaos. The Chaosists would choose a top-notch hacker to join C17. However, they had to go through many tests. As a result, all the members of the Chaos were not retained by C17 after so many years. Alright, I'll hang up then. Bei Yunj tried to make his tone sound less perfunctory, hoping that this person would stop for a while. But as soon as he hung up the phone, K's eyelids twitched. He could feel Bei Yunj's perfunctory attitude. How is it? Did you take down Max? A woman beside him was holding a snow-white Pomeranian and asked excitedly. She hung up. Even CI7 can't pique her interest. The woman was surprised. K. She doesn't know what CI7 is. The woman, so what does this big shot usually do? Does he live in the mountains? You don't even know CI7? Bei Yunj went back into the house. Chu Zhixing glanced at the indifferent Bei Yunj and immediately said, It was, my brother who pushed her. Didn't you fall on your own? Bei Yunj glanced at him indifferently. Chu Zhixing, your brother pushed her. Why did Mr. Chu lock you up at home? Bei Yunj asked. Because of some things, I had a dispute with my brother. And, when the guests were around, I fell ill. Hearing this, Bei Yunj subconsciously looked at Chu Zhixing, and the emotions in his eyes gradually turned cold. Chapter 742. Where are the injections? Bei Yunj asked. Chu Zhixing heard this and handed the other 2 boxes of injections to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at one of the boxes that had not been opened and then looked at the injections in her hand. Have you injected yourself on time during this period of time? Stephen said that my condition is much better and that I can reduce the amount of injections. Bei Yunj nodded. I'll take this back and check it out first. What's wrong? Chu Zhixing looked at her. Bei Yunj licked her lower lip and smiled faintly. I want to see who is so bold as to court death. Suddenly, Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi understood. Bei Yunj suspected that someone had deliberately made Chu Zhixing fall ill on the spot. But at that time, there were no outsiders in my family. Just as Chu Zhixing finished speaking, Lu Yuanxi suddenly said, Brother Chu, who is going to inherit your company in the future? Chu Zhixing and Chu Ziyuan were half-brothers with the same father but different mothers. Lu Yuanxi couldn't help but think too much. Chu Zhixing shook his head and denied it. My brother won't harm me. Although he usually doesn't like me, he's not that kind of person. Your brother won't. Someone will help him do such a thing. Bei Yunj suddenly said. These words stunned Chu Zhixing for a moment. Then, he thought of something and his expression didn't look too good. What's wrong? Bei Yunj noticed Chu Zhixing's strange behavior. Chu Zhixing shook his head. It's nothing. If that person was here, she might have done this, but that person isn't here. He looked at Bei Yunj and Lu Yuanxi. My brother's mother. After she divorced my father, she went up the mountain to cultivate. Later, my mother married my father and died of illness. My brother's mother came back to take care of me. After saying that, he pursed his lips. His eyes were filled with fear for that person. Are you hungry? Go downstairs and eat something. Bei Yunj suddenly changed the topic. Hearing this, Chu Zhixing brought the two of them downstairs. When Father Chu saw Chu Zhixing coming downstairs, his face darkened. Zhixing, what are you doing downstairs? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough last night? Chu Zhixing clenched his fists. I'm taking my friend out for dinner. Friends? Look at you, how can you have a true friend? After Mr. Chu finished speaking, he glanced coldly at Bei Yunj. Miss Pei, I heard that you are the eldest daughter of the Qin family. I heard that Miss Pei chased the original Miss Qin away as soon as she came back. What's so good about my son that Miss Pei likes him? Dad. Chu Zhixing's eyes were cold and red. He clenched his fists and the veins on the back of his hands bulged. He sneered, if you really hate me that much, you should have strangled me to death earlier. After saying this, Mr. Chu's expression changed and his body stiffened. This was the first time he had heard Chu Zhixing say such words. Mr. Chu's first reaction was to think that Bei Yunj had led Chu Zhixing astray. Miss Pei, this is the first time I've seen my son treat me like this. You're really capable. Mr. Chu almost gritted his teeth. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and glanced lazily at the people watching the commotion. She smirked. Why is Mr. Chu so angry? Do you have to be calculative with a young girl like me? Everyone was speechless. What he said seemed to be true. But why was this person so self-righteous? You. Uncle Chu. Suddenly, Bo Jinxiao walked over and immediately comforted him. Zhixing said it out of anger. P.S. I'm still updating. Good people, remember to vote. Chapter 743. Bo Jinxiao glanced at Chu Zhixing and smiled gently. Zhixing, apologized to Uncle Chu quickly. Usually at this time, Bo Jinxiao's words were the most effective. But at this moment, Chu Zhixing did not even look at the two of them and looked at Bei Yunj. Yunj, do you want to eat anything? Let's go out and eat. This was the first time she was ignored by Chu Zhixing. The smile on Bo Jinxiao's face immediately disappeared. Chu Zhixing, if you walk out of the Chu family today, don't even think about. Bei Yunj suddenly interrupted and looked at Mr. Chu with a smile. Mr. Chu, let's talk nicely. Do I look like someone who can't afford to raise little Chu? At this moment, Chu Zhixing almost called Bei Yunj father. Mr. Chu's face was livid and he was speechless for a long time. Let's go out for a meal and go to the library. Uncle Chu, don't worry. Bei Yunj's eyes curved as he said slowly. Mr. Chu glanced at Chu Zhixing and could only take a deep breath before he turned to leave. However, Chu Zhixing was touched. He turned around and blurted out instinctively, "Thank you, Father Pei." Bei Yunj was speechless. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. This call of "father" was straightforward enough. Lu Yuanxi placed his arm on Chu Zhixing's shoulder and said carelessly, "Fatty Chu, brother Lu can support you too. Why don't you call me father?" Chu Zhixing was speechless. On the way, Bei Yunj watched as Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing bickered all the way, attracting the strange gazes of many young girls. Until they got into the car. Lu Yuanxi was eager. "Where are we going to eat?" Bei Yunj said, "Uncle, let's go to the first hospital." Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing were speechless. An hour and a half later. In the hospital. Chu Zhixing walked out after drawing his blood. Audiobook, the test report is out. Send me a copy. Bei Yunj's eyes darkened. Chu Zhixing nodded and his heart warmed. Okay. However, just as the three of them were about to go for a meal, Bei Yunj suddenly saw a familiar figure. Wen Jiuan. Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows and glanced at Wen Jiuan, who was being pulled away by someone and was embarrassed to leave. He looked at her for a while. "Master Pei, what are you looking at?" Lu Yuanxi followed Bei Yunja's gaze and the corners of his mouth twitched. "Master Pei, don't tell me you want to go there." "What happened?" Bei Yunj saw that when Jiuan had been pulled in. "That place is called NH. It means night hunter." Lu Yuanxi coughed. "I heard that they often have theme parties." Bei Yunja's eyes flickered. "What theme?" Lu Yuanxi was silent for a moment. Bei Yunj, Lu Yuanxi's originally lazy appearance of a rich young master immediately changed. He explained somewhat unnaturally, "I've never been there." Although he liked to play and often went to bars and nightclubs, he simply didn't want to stay at home. He disdained to touch this kind of ambiguous gray area. "You guys go and do your homework first. I still have something to do." Pei Yunj raised an eyebrow and instructed before she prepared to leave. However, he was stopped by Lu Yuanxi. "Where are you going?" "Master Pei, don't do anything rash." "I won't do anything rash. You guys go back first." After Bei Yunj finished speaking, he went around the door and quickly left. Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing looked at each other. "NH. Miss, are you here to have fun too?" The male shop assistant who had just pulled Wen Jiuan in looked at Bei Yunj with a somewhat naked gaze. Chapter 744. "Do you know that person just now?" Bei Yunj asked casually and glanced at the two frames on his table. "Blue and red bracelets. That's a customer who came in to play." The male shop assistant smiled and said, "Moreover, in our shop, customers who look standard don't need to pay an admission fee. Naturally, you are the same." This girl's appearance was too attractive. She was too beautiful. Bei Yunj asked, "What is she doing in there?" "I'm sorry, Mississippi. The customer's information is confidential." After the male shop assistant finished speaking, he took out a half-face mask. "However, miss, you can go in and look for her. She's wearing a blue bracelet." "Blue?" Bei Yunj glanced at the two bamboo frames. Miss, you're smart." The male shop assistant smiled. Bei Yunj was already sure that Wen Jiuan had been tricked into coming in. Her eyebrows moved. She didn't quite understand how this woman could be tricked into coming to such a place since she could go to the same school as Yu Hanran and the others. Bei Yunj curled her lower lip and took out a red fluorescent bracelet. This made the male shop assistant look at her in surprise. "You," Bei Yunj looked up with a pair of beautiful eyes. There was a faint smile in her eyes, but they were filled with terrifying coldness. "Please come in." The male shop assistant's scalp went numb. When they entered, Bei Yunja's cell phone was also turned over. No filming was allowed inside. After entering, Bei Yunj saw a stage with ambiguous lights. When Bei Yunj walked in, everyone looked at her with interest. However, when they realized that the fluorescent bracelet on her hand was red, their interest was extinguished. Bei Yunj glanced around. Her eyes, which were usually curved, were no longer smiling. There was a hint of impatience in them. No one dared to strike up a conversation with her. "Tomb robber." Suddenly, a magnetic and pleasant voice sounded. "Miss, are you wearing the wrong bracelet?" Bei Yunj turned around and saw a man staring at her with a faint smile. "I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in you." Bei Yunja's red lips curled into a smile. Then, she turned around and left. The man could tell that it was the young girl's first time here. However, she did not seem to be nervous or fearful at all. "Miss, are you looking for someone?" The man chased after her and asked patiently, "Maybe I can help you." He smiled and said, "If you're looking for a friend, you might get into trouble if you're late in this place." Bei Yunj turned to look at him. A woman. She was wearing a blue bracelet and a white dress with blue patterns on it. "I've seen him before." the man replied. Seeing that Bei Yunj was just looking at him without saying anything, he couldn't help but laugh. She has a pearl necklace around her neck. A woman with neat bangs, right? Bei Yunj looked at him. Where is he? Miss, you might not know this, but there is a rule here. He smiled gently and said, only those who have won and those who have been punished can leave. These were the rules of the game. This punishment could be monetary, or it could be something else. There was a hint of ambiguity in the man's tone. Bei Yunj smiled and said, Boss, I'll only be in the mood to play if you give him to me. When the man heard this, his body stiffened slightly. He didn't expect Bei Yunj to guess it right away. What can you give me if I find him for you? The man asked unhurriedly. What's your competition? Bei Yunj glanced at the men and women on the stage. They were neatly dressed and sitting below the stage, as if they were here to attend an enjoyable concert. P.S. Good night, all of you. Chapter 745. After looking at Bei Yunj for a while, the young man lowered his head and smiled. Few people noticed the gentleness in his voice. This place varies from person to person. It depends on what Miss is interested in. For example, racing, shooting, or playing the piano. We have all kinds of activities here. The man's tone was gentle, but the staff next to him looked at him in disbelief. They felt that the boss's attitude towards this girl was a little different. Their club obviously had many activities, such as racing and shooting. Such a normal competition probably hadn't been done in hundreds of years, right? Go and find Miss 73, the man turned and ordered them. Then, he turned to Bei Yunj and smiled. Miss Pei, do you know how to play the piano? Bei Yunj looked at him for a while and felt that he looked familiar. She asked, what's your bet? What are you willing to bet? The man asked back. Bei Yunj smiled and took out a black bank card with gold embossing. Isn't this the black gold card issued by a bank this year? A sharp-eyed rich second-generation heir who was drinking at the side gasped in shock. It was said that there were only 300 of this card in the country. But where did this lady get the black gold card? If the boss wins, this card is yours. Bei Yunj said casually. The people around them were shocked by this girl's generosity. I didn't really count how many there are, but it should be quite a lot, she thought for a while and said slowly. When everyone heard this, their eyes were filled with greed. But in the shop, no one dared to make a move. After all, the rules and regulations of this shop were strict, and this shop owner seemed to have many powerful connections. Miss is generous. The man also took a long time to come back to his senses, but he changed the topic and said, but I'm not interested in Mrs. Money. When everyone heard this, they felt the ambiguity in his words. Although this lady was wearing a mask, one could tell that she was beautiful at a glance. If he didn't want money, didn't he want her? The beautiful girl in front of him was not angry. Instead, she looked at him with a faint smile. This shop can be opened here because of the boss's ability. Whether or not I can shut this shop down will depend on my ability. As soon as she finished speaking, the shop assistant's eyes immediately turned fierce. You. However, after being warned by the man's gaze, they unwillingly lowered their heads. Miss, are you really that heartless? I'm a little frustrated. After the man finished laughing, he looked at Bei Yunj. Or are you afraid that you're not satisfied with my looks? After he finished speaking, he took a step closer to her. Then miss, why don't you take off my mask personally? Hearing this, everyone subconsciously looked at the man. This shop also had a rule. With the consent of the other party, the person whose mask was removed would become the other party's exclusive property. But the man in front of her was the owner of this shop. Moreover, he had always heard that this boss was not a simple person. The surrounding people couldn't help but watch this scene. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj suddenly heard a woman's voice. He turned around and saw that it was the delirious Wen Jiuan. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. There was a hint of impatience in her beautiful eyes. She did not take Wen Jiuan. Instead, she allowed her to be thrown on the sofa and wriggled around. Bei Yunj pulled a blanket and threw it on the woman's face. At the same time, it covered her graceful figure. "Miss, you seem to be very impatient with your friends," the man said. Chapter 746. She's not my friend. Bei Yunja's tone was indifferent. And when the man heard this, he raised his eyebrows in surprise. "So I'm only willing to bet on this card." Bei Yunja's bright eyes were undisciplined, leisurely, and playful. "That's fine." The man asked again, an A-class black gold card to bet on a woman. "Miss, you're at a disadvantage." "I'm not at a disadvantage." Bei Yunja's lips curled up. "I can't lose this bet." After saying this, the staff in the shop were all angry at this girl. What ability did this girl have to dare to talk nonsense here? Only the man heard this and laughed. "Let's bet, Jiangji." As soon as the voice fell, the woman who was playing the piano on the stage came down and looked at Bei Yunjin scrupulously. From the moment she heard the man talking to this girl, she had noticed this girl. Even if she was wearing a mask, it couldn't hide the girl's arrogance. "My name is Jiangji. I'll accompany Miss to the competition today." Jiangji's tone was cold. After looking at Bei Yunj, the corner of her mouth quickly swept over with a hint of ridicule. She was just a pampered young lady. But she really didn't know which family doted on their daughter so much that they even gave her an A-class black gold card. "I can do whatever Miss is good at." Jiangji's tone was arrogant. She really didn't like this kind of delicate young lady. She would probably only choose the piano. Jiangji's eyes hid the faint ridicule, but the next second she heard the person opposite her suddenly say, "Racing, how about it?" Jiangji looked up almost subconsciously. She didn't even hide the expression on her face. She subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. "You want to race?" In her impression, no young lady liked this kind of competition. Jiangji frowned and looked at the man who had been staring at Bei Yunj. She couldn't help but clench her fists. "Okay." Her eyes darkened and she mocked, "Miss, I've been racing for many years." The other staff wanted to see how this arrogant female customer slapped her face. Jiangji had won the national racing championship when she was 20 years old. Wasn't competing with Jiangji courting death? She was asking for humiliation. "Really? That's interesting," Bei Yunj said slowly. She was not in the mood to play the piano in such a place. When Jiangji heard this, she looked at the man and waited for his order. "Miss doesn't know how to play the piano?" the man asked. Bei Yunj glanced at them with a half-smile. "Did you come here to listen to the piano?" His meaning was clear. This girl simply didn't want to play for them. In just one or two sentences, the entire crowd could not help but look at this girl furiously. They couldn't wait to see how embarrassed this woman would be when she lost. "Miss is too arrogant." After the man finished speaking, he gestured for them to arrange the competition. In the spectator stands. The shop assistant frowned. "Boss, that lady doesn't know what's good for her. She's arrogant and rude. Why don't you chase her out?" Usually, this kind of customer would have been thrown out long ago. She just happened to barge in. Isn't that rare? The man held a cigarette in his hand and put one hand in his pocket. His thin lips exhaled a circle of mist. The shop assistant didn't quite understand what the boss meant. Could it be that the boss knew this woman before? Jiangji is definitely going to win this competition. Jiangji has never lost a race before. The shop assistant smiled proudly. That person's black gold card can't be taken away. The man laughed and his gaze fell on the girl below the stage. Chapter 747. Below the track. Bei Yunj was just ready when she saw Wen Jiuan, who had woken up, rushing over. She was stunned for a moment. She did not expect that someone would tell her that the person who came to look for her would be Bei Yunj. "You're awake?" When Bei Yunj saw Wen Jiuan suddenly standing behind her, the coldness in her eyes disappeared in a flash. It only disappeared when she saw her clearly. "Why did you save me?" Wen Jiuan was wearing a mask. She pursed her lips and clenched her fists subconsciously. If she could make a choice, the last thing she wanted was to be saved by Bei Yunj. "There's no reason. My relationship with Yu Hanran is not that bad. He owes me a favor." Bei Yunj picked up the black leather gloves on the table and slowly put them on. Bei Yunj saw Wen Jiuan frowning and looking a little tired, so she did not intend to say anything. She laughed and said slowly, "It's good that you're awake. Otherwise, I would have at most placed Miss Wen at the nearby police station." "Yu Hanran?" Wen Jiuan paused. Wen Jiuan subconsciously stopped her. "Aren't you afraid that I'm a threat?" With that said, Bei Yunj also put on her gloves and prepared to leave. Bei Yunj's eyes curled up as she glanced at her calmly, before she walked away. However, Wen Jiuan felt inexplicably disappointed. She seemed to know why this girl was the most special person in Huashida's heart. Wen Jiuan clenched her fists and asked, "Miss Wen, no one can snatch what I want away." But now, it seemed that was not the case. This girl had a deep heart and was extraordinary. Such a girl was probably the most special existence in anyone's heart. When she called this morning, Wen Jiuan heard Yu Hanran say that Bei Yunj was a hot-tempered and calculative person. After Bei Yunj walked out, she glanced at the racing venue. It was spacious. Jiang Ji's voice sounded. Wen Jiuan felt upset, but she was afraid that something would happen to Bei Yunj, so she followed her out. For example, this competition was just a process for Bei Yunj. "Anything is fine. Miss, are you used to mountain racing?" Bei Yunj turned around and saw Jiang Ji dressed valiantly. She walked over and asked. Sister Jiang's smile means that she's definitely going to win. The man suddenly asked, "How many years has it been since Jiang Ji lost?" After Bei Yunj finished speaking, the smile on Jiang Ji's face deepened. On the other hand, the staff in the stands was happy and confident. "Boss, you mean," after the shop assistant reacted, she immediately felt indignant for Jiang Ji. But Sister Jiang is such a proud person, how could she deliberately lose to? Ever since she started following you, Jiang Ji has always held herself to the strictest standards. She has never lost. The man squeezed the wine glass in his hand and said indifferently, "Tell Jiang Ji that she doesn't need to win this competition." Then she heard him say, "I don't want her to be in any danger." Their mountain track was modeled after the North Loop of our nation's Black Mountain Track. It was one of the top 3 most dangerous tracks in the world. Under the man's gaze, the shop assistant shut his mouth. But in the next moment, those who were not that proficient in racing were likely to be seriously injured or even killed, but the shop assistant could not figure it out. That was an A-class black gold card. Since the boss did not deliberately lose to that girl for this card, why did he still want to do this competition? However, after this order was given to Jiang Ji looked at Bei Yunj coldly. Chapter 748. Jiang Ji gritted her teeth. This was the first time she had heard him make such a request. But in the next moment, Jiang Ji walked in front of Bei Yunj and smiled. "If there's anything wrong with the race, I hope you can forgive me." This time, she intended to go against that person's wishes. She wanted to prove to that person that this beautiful young lady was just an empty vase. She couldn't compare to her in any way. Bei Yunj just glanced at her leisurely. "You're welcome." At this moment, Wen Jiuan came over and frowned. That racetrack seems to be a simulation of the Haimu racetrack in Country R. It's very dangerous. She didn't recommend Bei Yunj to participate in such a dangerous race. When Jiang Ji heard this, she laughed. "Miss, how do you think you're standing in front of us conscious?" If it weren't for the bet, you would have been taken to bed by an old man wearing a mask. Wen Jiuan's expression changed when she heard this. She subconsciously looked at Bai Yunj. She didn't expect that Bai Yunj had to bet because of her. Bai Yunj glanced at her and didn't intend to talk to her. Wen Jiuan was speechless. If she wasn't wrong, she seemed to have seen the way this girl looked at her. She wasn't very patient. Wen Jiuan also felt embarrassed. She was 24 or 25 years old, but she was saved by Bai Yunj, a girl in her teens or 20s. "Miss, if you're ready, let's start." After that, Jiang Ji opened the car door and got in. But when Bai Yunj was about to walk over, Wen Jiuan suddenly called out to her. "Miss Pei, isn't it too dangerous?" Wen Jiuan pursed her lips. "I'm sorry. If it weren't for her, Bai Yunj wouldn't have to risk her life here." None of the rich ladies in Yuncheng were interested in racing. Bai Yunj looked at her for a while, then smiled lazily and got into the car. At this moment, Wen Jiuan was anxious but didn't know what to do. Her phone had been taken away and she couldn't even call the police. At this point, she could only hope that nothing bad happened to Bai Yunj. As soon as the referee raised the red flag, the race officially started. However, what everyone didn't expect was that after Jiang Ji's yellow car sped away, the white car on the other side didn't move at all. Bai Yunj unhurriedly removed his modified Bluetooth earpiece from his sleeve and glanced at the map displayed on the racing car. Wen Jiuan, who was originally nervous and excited, could not help but feel her eyelids twitch when she saw that the yellow car had disappeared from sight. Bai Yunj did not know what was going on either. What on earth was this person doing? At this very moment, when the people on the stage saw what Bai Yunj was doing through the camera, their eyelids couldn't help but twitch. What is she doing? Someone couldn't help but ask. Their racing car didn't have the ability to play music. The other person's eyelids twitched. Seems like he's listening to music. Why didn't anyone take away her earphones? But there was something even stranger. This girl's earphones were obviously Bluetooth earphones. The racetrack was about 200 to 300 meters away from the place where the guests' belongings were stored. How could there be a signal? Which Bluetooth earphones were so powerful? Chapter 749. Even Wen Jiuan, a virtuous lady from a prestigious family, could not withstand this stimulation and was about to have a heart attack. The man on the stage stared intently at the white racing car. At this moment, on the 2,500-meter mountain track, when Jiang Ji saw that the white car had disappeared, the sarcasm in her eyes became more and more obvious. The corners of her mouth curled up. She had thought that this missy might have learned how to race from someone impressive. But she did not expect that she would not move until now. But just as Jiang Ji sneered and was about to end the battle quickly, the person in the white car that everyone thought was bound to lose suddenly licked her lips, smiled silently, and stepped on the accelerator again. Even the rear tires were getting sparks from the friction. With an unstoppable speed, she sped directly into the mountain track. Very few people dared to drive directly into the mountain track at this speed, especially on such a dangerous winding slope. What's going on with this person? Does she want to die? Someone was stunned and asked subconsciously. Looking at the white race car's driving condition, it was simply too shocking. Every turn and acceleration, if one was not careful, the car would be destroyed and the person would die. Most professional racers would not dare to do this. But it was also in this state that everyone realized that although this person's drifting method was dangerous, she controlled it very well the entire time. In fact, Jiang Ji, who was originally far ahead of Bai Yunj, had already been overtaken by Bai Yunj. No one would have thought that this beautiful young lady would be so fierce and ruthless in racing. Even men like them felt that this was a life-and-death competition when they looked at the white car. It was too savage. Is this King trap? Why didn't she say earlier that she knew how to race? The shop assistant beside the man subconsciously blurted out. It attracted the man's indifferent gaze and he quickly shut his mouth. At this moment, Jiang Ji, who was racing in front, did not know that the person behind had caught up so quickly. This scene was recorded on the big screen. When Wen Jiuan saw the speed of the white car, she could not help but feel her heart tremble. Especially after the white car drove past, it stirred up a dust storm. After a while, Jiang Ji suddenly heard other sounds and subconsciously looked out of the corner of her eyes. She did not expect that the white car behind her had caught up. Her expression changed. She didn't expect Bei Yunj to be able to catch up with her so quickly. Wasn't that girl lagging behind her by a huge margin? How could he be so fast? Jiang Ji gritted his teeth as a dark light flashed across his eyes. He took a deep breath and made up his mind. Unknowingly, everyone noticed that the yellow car in front of them had slowed down. But when the man in the stand saw Jiang Ji's gloomy appearance, he frowned. What's wrong with Jiang Ji? Hearing this, the shop assistant reacted and saw Jiang Ji's expression clearly. Jiang Ji definitely didn't mean to let Bei Yunj win. The shop assistant was inexplicably flustered. Boss, Sister Jiang might. He didn't dare to continue because he could feel that the boss's face had turned cold. At the same time, Bei Yunj also felt that the other party was deliberately slowing down, as if waiting for her. Her good-looking eyes were full of playfulness. Then, just as Jiang Ji was about to wait for her, Bei Yunj casually stepped on the accelerator. On the rocky ground, the ground where the tires drove over was a little hot and steamy. She sped forward. P.S. There's one more chapter. I'll add it tomorrow morning. Chapter 750. The speed of the car was already frightening, but now, it made people's hearts jump to their throats. Jiang Ji clenched the steering wheel tightly. She bit her lips and finally made up her mind. She looked at the direction and position and swept the rear of the car to the side. This action was very dangerous. Some of the timid ladies in the field couldn't help but shout and immediately cover their eyes. The man in the stands had a cold gaze. He clenched his fists and his palms were sweating. He didn't expect that Jiang Ji would actually not listen to him. But at the same time, just as the man was about to get someone to go down to save her, the white car that had been hit sped up at the last minute. The collision of the rear of the car caused severe damage to the car. But with the help of the speed, she drifted faster and turned the corner. This was something that no one had expected. Jiang Ji's expression changed. In a moment of unease, she accidentally bumped into the small hill. But fortunately, Jiang Ji turned the steering wheel in time and her life was not in danger. But the front of the car was seriously damaged and could no longer drive in the mountains. What is Sister Jiang doing? No one had expected this. They had never thought that they would see Sister Jiang lose like this. How old is that girl? Did you see her drifting skills just now? Isn't this person too strange? Some people couldn't help but sigh. It was normal for Jiang Ji to lose when she encountered such a strange person. In the mountains. In the end, Jiang Ji's car was hung out and her body was covered in blood. But just as Jiang Ji came out, the man walked straight to Bei Yunj. It's good that Miss Pei is fine. The man's slightly disorderly breathing showed that he was nervous. Bei Yunj glanced at the back of the car that was almost destroyed and raised her eyebrows. Can I go now? She knew that Jiang Ji had deliberately hit her and knew how to avoid it. God of Dancy Book, but this was not her car. So Bei Yunj did not have such kind thoughts. The man looked at her for a while and smiled. Of course, Miss Pei. Bei Yunj's eyes darkened and looked up at the man. She had long felt that this man was inexplicably familiar. But she also felt like she had never seen this pair of eyes before. The man's eyes were dark brown, darker than the eyes of ordinary people, close to ink. Send this lady away. The man said again. Bai Yunj didn't think too much about who this person was. After Bai Yunj left, the man took off his mask, revealing a fair and handsome face. There was only coldness in his voice. Who told you to act on your own? Jiang Ji bit her lips and covered her bleeding head. Go back and be punished. The man was neither fast nor slow, but it was not difficult to see that he was really angry. Except for the first time when she was with a man when she was young and was punished by him. This was the second time she had been punished. Yes. Jiang Ji bit her lip. She didn't let anyone help her and walked out. At this time, as soon as Bai Yunj and Wen Jiuan went out, they saw two figures at the door. Why are you still here? Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. After Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing turned around, they immediately ran to Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj, are you okay? Lu Yuanxi sized her up. Beside him, Chu Zhixing also looked nervous. Class is the day after tomorrow. Have you finished your homework? Bai Yunj asked in amusement. Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi. Chapter 751. Bai Yunj, do you have any conscience? Lu Yuanxi could not help rubbing Bai Yunj's head hard. Just as expected. In the next moment, he felt Bai Yunj's cold gaze. This person hated it when others touched her head the most. Chu Zhixing felt like he had seen Wen Jiuan somewhere before, but he could not remember clearly. After Wen Jiuan was lifted up, she nodded at the two of them. Hello, my name is Wen Jiuan. It had to be said that Bai Yunj's friends were all good-looking. One of them was wearing a dark blue loose t-shirt. His facial features were well-defined and his eyes were noble. The other was wearing a black t-shirt. He was handsome and lazy. His eyes were slanted and he looked a little careless. No matter who looked at him, three words would appear in their minds. Rich young master. Miss Wen. Chu Zhixing nodded. Suddenly, Bai Yunj said, Miss Wen, take care. I won't send you off. Wen Jiuan was speechless. Chu Zhixing and Lu Yuanxi were speechless. As expected of Master Pei. Fortunately, they were already used to her unfriendliness. Then I'll go back first. Today. Thank you, Miss Pei. After thanking Bai Yunj, Wen Jiuan left immediately and hailed a car not far away. Master Pei, don't always target people. Lu Yuanxi teased on purpose. Is it because Miss Wen is gentle and good-looking? At this moment, Chu Zhixing asked for no reason, isn't that what she likes? Wasn't Song Yao a typical beautiful and gentle little fairy? A straight killer in a high school. She even had many admirers in Hengda. In order to see Song Yao, they had skipped class and climbed the wall to leave school. As for Bai Yunj, although her temper was not very good, she was very popular in school. Even the juniors often came to peek at her. However, no one could rise up the ranks so quickly by Bai Yunj's side like Song Yao. Therefore, Chu Zhixing had always felt that although Bai Yunj did not say it on the surface, she had always liked Song Yao's gentle and beautiful style. Bai Yunj glanced at Chu Zhixing again. This made Chu Zhixing immediately shut his mouth. Let's go. If you don't go to the library, you should prepare to go back to school and face reality. Bai Yunj was too lazy to talk to them. She walked to the side of the road and hailed a taxi. On the first day of school, Bai Yunj had never expected that she would be the first to be punished as a part of her summer homework. In physics class, Teacher Zhao Yi, who was usually kind and humorous, was silent for a moment before he turned on the projector again. He showed everyone a question. He cleared his throat and asked with a smile, Students, who wants to solve this question? No one below the stage spoke. Not long after, Zhao Yi smiled again, this time even more gently. No one will do it? Then let's invite the student whose answer is 7010 to answer. Lu Yuanxi. Lu Yuanxi had a bad feeling when he heard this. He couldn't help but give Bei Yunj a look. But in the next moment, he realized that Bei Yunj was looking at him with a complicated expression. Lu Yuanci couldn't care less. As he stood up, he asked in a low voice, "Dad, how did you come up with 7010? Bei Yunj's eyelids moved and he looked at the question again. "I don't know either." Just as the two of them were equally puzzled, Zhao Yi called the next student whose answer was 7010. This made Bei Yunj's eyelids twitch even more. Her determination to take the college entrance examination became even stronger. Soon, almost everyone in the class was called and the answer was 7010. Chapter 752. Zhao Yi smiled as he picked up the big triangular board that the math teacher used in class. "Alright, students, shouldn't you tell me how you got the answer?" Zhao Yi was so angry that he laughed. The first question, the original answer was 7%. All of you got 7010. In the end, he even got the second question right? For a moment, the class was even more silent. Then, just as Bei Yunj was thinking about how such a thing could happen, Chu Zhixing, who was next to her, said in annoyance, "I think I read the wrong question and accidentally copied Master Pei's answer." Bei Yunj was speechless. Lu Yuanci was speechless. "Are you worthy of your nearly perfect science score? I'll give you one more chance. Where did the answer come from?" Although Zhao Yi was not usually angry with students, it was hard not to be angry when he saw a large group of students copying homework like this. Soon, just as Bei Yunj looked up slowly, she saw everyone carefully turning to size her up. Bei Yunj was speechless. Not long after, Bei Yunj realized that the original version of the homework was actually hers. "What's wrong? Don't you have the guts to admit it?" Zhao Yi finished speaking. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment before she stood up slowly. "It's mine." Zhao Yi was silent for a moment before he laughed in anger. "You're still my class representative." Bei Yunj was speechless. The surrounding people felt guilty and guilty. At the same time, they were scared. This was Bei Yunj with the worst temper. When the teacher left, wouldn't Bei Yunj tear them apart with her own hands? At the thought of this, they regretted copying the devil's homework even more. This was the first time Bei Yunj had encountered such a thing, so she was not mentally prepared. Then, she saw teacher Zhao Yi, who usually liked her the most, walk in front of her. However, Bei Yunj had an ominous feeling, the next moment. Zhao Yi directly put the big yellow triangular board on Bei Yunj's head. Bei Yunj and Zhao Yi looked at each other. The scene inexplicably hit a cute spot, and everyone wanted to rub the great demon king's head. This was especially true for the girl who was usually unruly and unruly. At this moment, her face was silent. Even though she was wearing a large triangle, she still had a slight expression on her face. The contrast was simply too cute. The way Master Pei looked when he was being punished was too cute. "Rua?" Zhao Yi asked, "Do you feel uncomfortable if you don't do it?" In the past, Zhao Yi felt that the entire 7th class was extremely noisy. However, ever since she was transferred from Bei Yunj, all the attention in the teacher's office was on her. All the teachers had a love-hate relationship with her. She had such a beautiful face, but she used it all to do bad things and pretend to be innocent. Every time they wanted to reprimand Bei Yunj, the innocent look in her eyes after she apologized clearly meant, "As long as I admit my mistakes, no one will be willing to punish me." Bei Yunj lazily poked the triangular board with her slender fingers. "Teacher Zhao, I was wrong. This will make me a little embarrassed." "Really? I think they all like it." Zhao Yi glanced at the girls whose cheeks were red. From time to time, they would glance at Bei Yunj and chuckle. Zhao Yi casually asked teasingly, "Has the class representative received a lot of love letters recently?" Old Zhao had also seen his class representative's drawer full of love letters. There were even girls who wrote them. This made old Zhao even more distressed. Why didn't he receive Bei Yunji's treatment when he was young? Chapter 753. Zhao Yi was speechless. Sure, this guy was really infuriating. Zhao Yi gently adjusted the triangular board on Bei Yunji's head. Class representative, you can only take it off after class. Bei Yunji was speechless. Childish. Suddenly, a girl next to him said angrily, "Why is teacher Zhao like this? She was the most popular teacher last semester. Many juniors voted for her on Tieba because she was your class representative." Hearing this, Zhao Yi finally realized that he had won the award because of his class representative's face. No wonder people come to borrow my class representative's homework every day. Zhao Yi had always thought that the students liked him because he was getting more and more passionate in class. Bei Yunji was speechless. Bei Yunji, I already said that the lipstick mark on the last page of your physics workbook wasn't done by me. You still insisted that it was me. Lu Yuanci smiled insincerely. He had been accused of being a pervert for most of the semester. Finally, he was cleared of it. Bei Yunji was speechless. Everyone was speechless. There was actually such a thing. Aren't those junior sisters a little too crazy? After class, no one left. The atmosphere was strange and silent. Especially the students who had been punished with Bei Yunji just now. They were afraid that this big boss would fly into a rage. Bei Yunji took off the big triangular ruler on his head. After a moment of silence, he glanced at everyone present. Everyone, didn't you have any doubts when you copied the homework? Everyone was speechless. After Bei Yunji asked, only Lu Yuanci leaned against the wall and laughed heartlessly. His voice was hoarse and low, very pleasant to the ears. Excuse me, is Senior Bei Yunji here? Teacher Wen is looking for you. A girl with an unfamiliar face said softly at the door. Bei Yunji held the big triangular ruler and raised it lazily. Then, he walked to the podium and put it down. Thank you, I'll go now. Bei Yunji smirked at her and left directly. Only Lu Yuanci felt that the junior with long black hair looked a little familiar. Wasn't that the student on duty? Looking at the way she watched Bei Yunji leave, Lu Yuanci's eyelids twitched. He didn't quite understand why Bei Yunji was so popular. In the office. Do you know who the top scorer of this year's college entrance examination is? Teacher Wen looked at Bei Yunji gently and asked. Bei Yunji thought for a moment. I don't know. Teacher Wen's smile grew brighter. Of course, it has nothing to do with you. Bei Yunji looked up at him. Then why did he call her over? Our goal is to be in the top 3 of our grade. Teacher Wen said kindly, Bei Yunji, I know you're talented, but the revision process for the 3rd year of high school is very fast, so I hope your grades won't drop. Bei Yunji thought for a moment. Teacher, can I not take the college entrance examination? In her previous life, Bei Yunji did not take the college entrance exam. She did not even take the in-school admission test and was directly admitted to a foreign university. Are you going to sell carrots instead of taking the college entrance examination? Teacher Wen's expression changed in a second and he stood up suddenly. It gave the mathematics teacher, who had just arrived, a fright. Bei Yunji. I want to enroll students on my own. Hearing this, Teacher Wen heaved a sigh of relief. You want to enroll students on your own? Then you have to win a good competition. Teacher Wen was a little troubled. Yunji, I think you only have a physics competition, right? This award seems a little small, and it's only in the country. Chapter 754. Bei Yunji thought for a moment and nodded. I got it. Seeing that Bei Yunji was so obedient today, Teacher Wen felt exceptionally happy. Don't worry, Yunji. As long as you work hard, Yun University won't be a problem. The moment Teacher Wen finished speaking, the teacher from class 1 next door could not help but sneer. She glanced at Bei Yunji. As long as student pays results are real, why can't she get in? You, Teacher Zhou, pay attention to your status. Teacher Wen's expression darkened. Teacher Zhou raised an eyebrow. This time, Cheng Zihuai got 737 points and is the top scorer of the college entrance examination. Teacher Wen is so hardworking. You must be able to nurture a top scorer of the college entrance examination, right? With that said, she left in her high heels. The college entrance examination this time was actually very difficult. In the past, the top scorer of the college entrance examination could get around 747 points, which was 2 to 3 points short of full marks. However, as the top scorer of the college entrance examination, Cheng Zihuai only got 737 points. The second and third place both got 734 points. Of course, Teacher Wen had never thought of nurturing the top scorer of the college entrance examination. He also knew that Teacher Zhou was mocking him. He took a deep breath and could not be bothered to argue with her. He only turned to Bei Yunj and said, "Don't care what others say. Just do what you have to do." After a semester, he believed in his student's character. Okay. Bei Yunj smiled. After school, Bei Yunj went to the dessert shop opened by Song Yao's mother. She sat inside and ate 3 croissants. Seeing that Bei Yunj liked it so much, Mrs. Song smiled from ear to ear. "Yunj, if you like it, bring some back when you leave." "Thank you, Auntie." Bei Yunj did not stand on ceremony. Many people outside could not help but come over to buy some snacks after seeing the unbelievably beautiful girl eating inside. Soon, Mrs. Song frowned and looked at the time. Why isn't Yao Yao back yet at this time? Usually, Song Yao would have been back for more than 20 minutes. Hearing this, Bei Yunj slowly finished the last bit of snacks and wiped the corner of her lips. "Auntie, I'll go find her." "How troublesome is this?" "Yunj, wait a little longer. Yao Yao should be back soon." Although Mrs. Song said that, Bei Yunj could tell that she was a little worried. "It's no trouble at all. I told her last time that I'll look for her at a high school." Hearing Bei Yunj's words, Mama Song let her be. However, she couldn't help but say, "If anything happens, you must call Auntie." "All right." Bei Yunj nodded. Mrs. Song's heart ached as she watched Bei Yunj leave. Ever since the Song Corporation went bankrupt, Song Yao had suffered a lot with her. Last year, someone had thrown all of Song Yao's books into the sink and made Song Yao dry the books with a hairdryer the entire night. Mrs. Song could not help but worry that something had happened to Song Yao today. Bei Yunj was wearing Hengda's uniform. Her long legs were straight and white, and her eyes were lazy and bright. She looked unruly. It was especially eye-catching. Someone was talking behind his back. "Is this girl from Hengda? Are the girls from Hengda so high quality? Oh my god. Wait a minute, this person looks familiar." Someone suddenly thought of something and shivered. "It's Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj from Hengda's grade 12 class 7. Hearing this, many people remembered. They had heard from Hengda's students that Bei Yunj from grade 12 class 7 was extremely good-looking, but they did not believe it. Now that they saw her in person, their hearts raced. Chapter 755. This appearance was actually real. In the past, when they heard the people from Hengda say arrogantly that their school's Bei Yunj was the prettiest among all the high schools in Yuncheng, they thought that the people from Hengda were getting better at boasting. After all, they had said that Qin Youjiao was good-looking back then, but in the end, she was not as good-looking as their school's Song Yao. But seeing this person today, they suddenly could not refute the words of those dogs from Hengda. "Ah, isn't a girl from Hengda too handsome in a tie?" The girl could not help but whisper excitedly. The girls in their school could only wear necklaces. Look at her face. Is this senior from Hengda next door? F***ck, could she be that Bei Yunj? She's really beautiful. The excited voices of the surrounding girls drowned out the discussions of the boys. For the first time, the boys in a high school doubted the sexual orientation of the girls in their school. But only those from Hengda understood that this was their daily life, at the entrance of a high school. "Student, are you from our school?" The security guard quickly stopped Bei Yunj and confirmed that their school did not have such a beautiful girl. "No, I'm here to pick someone up." Bei Yunj's eyes curved. The security guard looked around and asked softly, "Boyfriend?" Bei Yunj. "No, a girl." The security guard looked disappointed and said, "Our school doesn't allow people from other schools to enter." Hearing this, Bei Yunj glanced around carelessly and the corners of her lips suddenly curled up. "Then I'll wait outside." The security guard immediately had a good impression of Bei Yunj. Look, this girl was good-looking and obedient. Unlike that group of shamate kids, who caused a lot of commotion the first time they were refused entry to the school. However, in the library, at this moment, Bei Yunj had already walked to the school wall at the back. She looked at the boy beside her who was wearing a white student shirt and had dyed his hair white. He crawled for a long time but did not manage to climb up. The boy turned around and when he saw Bei Yunj's face clearly, a trace of surprise flashed past his eyes. Then, he noticed that Bei Yunj was sizing him up and flew into a rage out of humiliation. "You despise me?" Bei Yunj pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She threw her school bag into the hole and climbed over the wall. Then, she jumped down without looking back. Her smooth movements made the other boys with different colors of hair stare blankly at the white-haired boy. "That person just now, from our school? It can't be. I think she's wearing the school uniform of Hengda next door. Sai, let's stop chatting. If boss doesn't come in, he won't be able to fetch sister-in-law." At this moment, Bei Yunj had already found grade 12 class 5 by following the class tag. Glancing at the neat rows of black heads, she realized that the class hadn't ended yet. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched. She didn't expect that there would be a teacher with a worse procrastination than old one. However, a few minutes later, Bei Yunj found that there were 4 or 5 boys outside. They seemed to be waiting for someone. Bei Yunj slowly retracted her gaze, took out her earphones, and looked at the documents in boredom. In the classroom. "Teacher Li, I really saw Song Yao interacting with the youths outside. Although Song Yao is an adult, she can't ruin the atmosphere of our school, right?" Su Xianing rolled her eyes and glanced at the girl who had spoken sternly just now. She snorted. Song Yao would like them? The people around did not understand why Su Xianing was suddenly so protective of Song Yao. She used to like teasing Song Yao the most. Chapter 756. Su Xianing, don't tell me you changed your attitude so quickly just because you might know Song Yao? The girl's words were sharp. However, Su Xianing fell out with her in the next second. She slammed the table and stood up, her expression dark. "Say that again?" The girl was shocked, but seeing that the teacher was around, she was fearless. "Am I not telling the truth? After that competition, you seem to have changed into a different person. You used to hate Song Yao the most. I think you're looking for trouble, aren't you?" Su Xianing laughed coldly. Su Xianing. The form teacher's expression was cold. "Do you treat the school as your home?" Su Xianing stopped talking and glanced at Song Yao unwillingly. Seeing Song Yao's indifferent expression, she gritted her teeth and did not say anything more. King deserved to be bullied. Su Xianing was furious. "Song Yao, what do you say?" The form teacher said calmly, "You've already stayed in high school for 2 years longer than the others. Do you still want a 3rd year? I don't know those people." Song Yao's tone was cold and she glanced at the girl beside her. The girl was not frightened at all. Instead, she said proudly, "I saw you calling someone and asking to meet them after school. Are you sure that punk isn't waiting for you at the door? Do I need to prove anything to you?" Song Yao's lips curved and her eyes were gentle. However, her words were inexplicably harsh. The form teacher's expression darkened. Song Yao. If what Li Dan said is true, I'll consider letting you leave school. With that said, Song Yao clenched her fists and sized up the woman in front of her. Back then, this woman had received her father's favor. When the Song family was glorious, this woman told everyone how good her relationship with the Song family was. However, after the Song family was defeated, this woman was the first to target her. A faint sarcasm appeared in Song Yao's eyes. Free Chinese Yu Ling had made her life realistic and cruel. Teacher Li, look if that's white hair. When the girl saw the eye-catching white hair outside, she immediately said to the form teacher. Then, she glanced at Song Yao gloatingly. The form teacher's expression was dark as she glanced at Song Yao and walked out of the class. Everyone could not help but look at Song Yao. Some were gloating, while others remained silent. They all felt that Song Yao deserved it. Who asked her to bear the burden of a human life? At this moment, the form teacher found the white-haired young man and frowned. You know Song Yao? His words also made Bei Yunj, who was standing at the side, stop what he was doing and look up at the scene. I do. The white-haired youth frowned and asked with a frivolous smile, Yo, teacher, you're looking for me. Are you Song Yao's boyfriend? The homeroom teacher's tone turned even colder, and he had a look of disgust on his face. Everyone in the classroom was waiting for the boy's reply. Only Song Yao glanced at the person at the door calmly. Yeah, what's wrong? Can't I? After the boy finished speaking, Li Dan's face was filled with joy as she looked at Song Yao proudly. Song Yao, let's see if you can scram this time. However, in the next second. Before anyone could react, the boy who had spoken was kicked by someone and fell to the ground. A painful howl attracted everyone's attention. Then, everyone turned around and saw a girl in uniform walking lazily at the door. Her eyes were beautiful and arrogant. However, her tone was a little dangerous. I think you're quite bold. Chapter 757. Bei Yunj did not look up at the form teacher. She only kicked the white-haired young man with the tip of her shoe and sneered. Say it again. I didn't hear you clearly just now. What are you doing? The white-haired young man looked into Bei Yunja's eyes and felt inexplicably terrified. This was the girl who had just climbed over the wall. It was his first time meeting a girl of this age with such terrifying eyes. She was clearly smiling, but there was coldness in her eyes. Since when is it your turn to be Song Yao's boyfriend? Bei Yunj asked in return. The atmosphere was inexplicably cold. Everyone inside could not help but stare at the girl in front of them. Wasn't this girl too good-looking? She was actually Song Yao's friend? Who are you? This is a school. What are you doing? The form teacher's expression changed and she immediately questioned. In the next moment, her sharp eyes saw Bei Yunja's school badge clearly. You're from Hengda. Aren't you afraid that I'll look for Hengda's teachers and be punished? Year 3 Class 7, Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at her and suddenly, her eyes curved. In front of the form teacher, she slowly pinned the school badge on her chest. This action was simply a provocation. When the people inside heard this, they exploded. F***ck, F***ck. Bei Yunj? Hengda Bei Yunj? Isn't this their school bell? She's too awesome. Do you need me to leave the principal's number? Then can you let Song Yao go back with me earlier? Bei Yunj asked slowly. When the other girls heard this, their hearts inexplicably exploded. This scene was actually a girl's home ground? Suddenly, they felt that puppy love was too weak. At least, their boyfriends did not have the guts to ask the form teacher for her. The form teacher's face was livid. She had never met a student like Bei Yunj. She was a hot potato. Bei Yunj did not care. Song Yao's form teacher was still present. She lowered her head and kicked the white-haired young man. Her tone seemed to be teasing, but it made one's scalp turn numb. Our Tian still has to go to university. I'll break the legs of whoever affects her studies. Friend, do you understand? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone around felt an inexplicable pain in their legs. This was the first time he had met a girl who had her own aura. This person from Hengda was too ruthless. Everyone looked at Song Yao enviously. Song Yao was speechless. Did she read the romance novels her mother bought in her shop again? The homeroom teacher couldn't even finish his sentence. It was the first time that the surrounding students had seen such a wild person. Bei Yunj did not look at her and walked straight to class 5. In front of everyone, he walked to Song Yao's side. Why do you have all kinds of trash around you? Bei Yunj asked slowly. His words made the people around him hold their breaths. Li Dan, who was next door, was even more agitated. Li Dan's face turned red and green. Song Yao, don't think that you can cover for you just because you found a helper. You know very well whether or not you've done those dirty things. Bei Yunj half raised his eyes, the cold light in his eyes leaking out. It made Li Dan's body stiffen. Bei Yunj walked to Li Dan's side and picked up her workbook. Li Dan did not dare to stop her. I'm done packing. Song Yao suddenly said. Bei Yunj read the name on the workbook. Li Dan. She smirked and placed the workbook on the table. You know quite a lot, so student Li has to remember it clearly. If Song Yao cries for me, it's about time for you to pack your things and drop out of school. Chapter 758. This was the first time everyone present had encountered such an open threat. Bei Yunj. The form teacher's expression was ugly. Bei Yunj slowly glanced at everyone present and the corners of her lips curled up. Of course, she's not the only one I'm talking about. Inexplicably, the people on the field shuddered. However, Su Xianing could not help but look at Bei Yunj again. She could not help feeling envious. Although this Bei Yunj was ignorant and incompetent, did nothing and always bullied Song Yao. But only she would protect Song Yao so openly and fearlessly. No wonder Song Yao only liked Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, are you used to being presumptuous in Hengda? Why are you acting like a tyrant in our school now? The form teacher said sternly. Teacher, you're too agitated. Am I not helping you solve Song Yao's puppy love problem? Bei Yunj's eyes curved, but the smile did not reach her eyes. The form teacher froze. It had to be said that students of Bei Yunj's age rarely had such a scary aura. Let's go. After Bei Yunj took her away, the form teacher finally regained her senses. After school, the students in class 5 could not help but discuss. That's Bei Yunj from Hengda? No wonder they say that the average looks of Hengda have been raised by her. Someone could not help but sigh. But don't you think that this person is too arrogant? It's my first time seeing such a person. Of course. Do you know who Bei Yunj's deskmate is? Hengda's school bully, Lu Yuanci. The two of them are very close. I heard from my friend that Lu Yuanci dotes on this big boss quite a lot. Hearing this, everyone could not help but imagine a sweet campus romance novel. However, in the next moment, Li Dan's cold voice sounded. What's so great about her? She was just lucky to be found by the Qin family. That's Song Yao's life. She likes to play with such wild girls. At this moment, before Su Xianing left, she chuckled. Isn't that fake young lady the lucky one? No matter what, she has occupied Bei Yunj's position for 19 years. After saying that, Su Xianing looked at Li Dan again. You said she's a wild girl, then what are you? Bei Yunj was brought up by Dean Lin Lanjun. What about you? After saying this also caused Li Dan's face to turn red, and she was somewhat speechless. Lin Lanjun? The former dean of the biology department of Yun University. F***ck, is it really Lin Lanjun? I thought it was a joke. Even if it's not found, it can still be brought home by a famous female scientist in the country. Everyone became even more envious. Stop. Bei Yunja's voice rang out lazily from the back door, causing the young men in the front row to freeze. Originally, the white-haired punk wanted to take revenge, but when he heard that this was Lu Yuanxi's deskmate, he immediately dismissed the idea. This was the deskmate of Hengda's school bully. No wonder his temper was so bad. What do you want? The white-haired young man took a step back. Song Yao held Bei Yunja's wrist and glanced at the white-haired young man. He helped me before. That's right. I'm not a bad person. Hearing Song Yao speak up for him, the white-haired young man heaved a sigh of relief. Back then, when Song Yao was bullied, he had found many people to help protect her. Then why did you say that you're Song Yao's boyfriend? Bei Yunj asked. I am protecting her. The white-haired young man turned his head away guiltily. I'm also pursuing Song Yao. Chapter 759. Song Yao said, I don't like you. Yu looked up and met Song Yao's gentle eyes. At this moment, they were filled with calmness. His heart slowly ached. Although this was not the first time he had been rejected. Then, just as Yu wanted to look away, he saw Bei Yunj watching the show from the corner of his eye. Yu was speechless. Did the person beside him not have any sympathy at all? Bei Yunj also felt Yu's gaze and said apologetically, I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Yu was speechless. Song Yao was speechless. Do you like straight-A students? If you like straight-A students, I'll repeat year 3. Yu said confidently and seriously, it's not a problem to get first place in the cohort. Yu's results before he quit school were quite good and he had always been in the top 10 of the cohort. In the words of the teacher, he was smart and understood everything with just a hint. Yu. Song Yao frowned. Song Yao, don't reject me. If you really don't like me, then tell me a goal that I can't reach. Don't make me give up so quickly. Yu clenched his fists and stared straight at her. Song Yao was silent for a long time. She looked up at him. I only like the first place in Hengda's year 3 cohort. Bei Yunj turned to look at Song Yao. Really? Then it's a deal. I'll tell my father now that I want to go to Hengda. When Yu heard this, she was so elated that she almost jumped up. Then, she immediately ran off. Bei Yunj shook the glass milk bottle unhappily. You want him to go to Hengda? Wouldn't that make him her schoolmate? Yu's results are very good. As long as he studies hard, he can easily get into a good university. Song Yao smiled. Aren't you afraid that he'll get first place? Bei Yunj laughed and asked slowly. The 6th book? Aren't you here? Song Yao's voice was still very gentle as she reached out to wipe the milk stains on Bei Yunj's lips. After Bei Yunj drank the milk, he threw the glass bottle into the rubbish bin and said slowly, I didn't say that I'm the first in Hengda. Then will you lose to me? Song Yao suppressed the smile on her lips. Bei Yunj glanced at her and smiled lazily. I won't. Song Yao could not help holding Bei Yunja's hand. Her gentle eyes were exceptionally beautiful. Why are you looking for me today? It's your brother again? Bei Yunj responded with a dark look in her eyes. Goop, did you kiss your brother? Song Yao's sudden question made Bei Yunj look up suddenly. I've never seen your ears turn red when you mentioned him before. Song Yao said in a gentle voice with curved lips. She was very good at observing the subtle expressions of others, especially after she went bankrupt. No. Bei Yunj inexplicably recalled the scene from last time, and her ears couldn't help but burn. As expected. In the blink of an eye, she saw Song Yao looking at her with a smile. He was drunk and didn't do anything out of line. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, Song Yao didn't speak, but her eyes were filled with disbelief. Bei Yunj changed the topic. But the day after he woke up, he didn't remember anything. What people do when they're drunk is usually what they want to do the most, Song Yao said. Hearing this, Bei Yunj thought of the few times after Huashidu got drunk. He was very clingy to her, liked to find trouble with her, and bully her. Song Yao said, Yunj, how does he usually treat you? P.S. Sister Yao is the front-line assist. Next chapter is sugar. Good people remember the monthly votes. Chapter 760. Usually, Bei Yunj said without thinking, she likes to seduce me. Song Yao was speechless. Is there anything you don't dare to think about? Bei Yunj turned around and felt Song Yao's deep distrust. You don't believe me? Bei Yunj stopped in her tracks and narrowed her pretty eyes. She reached out and pressed Song Yao's head. From afar, the students from First High School saw their school belle, Song Yao, being pressed by the school belle, Bei Yunj, from Hengda next door. The scene was so sweet. The students from First High School were speechless. What was wrong with the school belle now? Why wasn't she in a relationship with the school beau? Did I see wrongly? Song Yao and Bei Yunj? Song Yao pulled Bei Yunj's tie just now. Did you see it? It's so sweet. Boo-hoo-hoo, Master Pei is so handsome in a tie. The boy eating oden next door was slapped by the girl who was overly excited about the couple and the oden rolled to the ground. The boy was speechless. Could a male couple no longer satisfy this group of people? Back home. Bei Yunj thought about Song Yao's distrust just now and glanced at the time. There was still more than an hour before Huashidu returned. At this thought, Bei Yunj went to take a shower first. She slowly poured a glass of water downstairs and went upstairs to read for a while. Until 8:30 p.m., Bei Yunj ate grapes and leaned lazily against the railing of the corridor on the second floor, looking at the empty hall. Just as expected. The man had returned at some point. He was sitting on the sofa and having a video conference with the higher-ups. The man's handsome and dignified eyes were calm. Under his gold-rimmed glasses, his pair of cold upturned eyes were dangerous and deep, filled with an inexplicable aggressiveness. Love you e-book. His thin red lips curled up and he threw the documents on the table. Is this what you gave me in 2 weeks? The higher-ups who were in the meeting did not dare to say a word. After a while, the man sensed that someone was standing in front of him. He looked up and didn't expect to see Bei Yunj. After that, the executives in the meeting felt that their CEO's voice was inexplicably less cold. Give me another proposal tomorrow. Meeting adjourned. After Huashidu finished speaking, he hung up the video call and sized up the girl in front of him, who was wearing a white shirt and had a pair of slender and fair legs. The color of spring under his shirt seemed like it could be seen at any time. His eyes gradually darkened, and even the light disappeared. He had hung up the video call just now because he was afraid that this young lady would dare to run in front of his camera while dressed like this. Your hair hasn't dried yet. Huashidu reminded her and lowered his head again. He did not look at Bei Yunj and prepared to continue working. However, in the depths of his half-dark eyes, he was thinking about other things and was unable to focus. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Normally, Huashidu would personally help her dry her hair. Brother, Bei Yunj suddenly called out. Huashidu replied nonchalantly, okay. Have you been very busy recently? Bei Yunj asked again. Huashidu saw Bei Yunj suddenly approaching and looked up at her. He placed a bunch of keys on the table. I prepared them for you. Bei Yunj, why did this D*MN man have a completely different attitude towards her when he was awake? Brother, I can't understand my math homework. Bei Yunj sat on the carpet and rested her chin on one hand. Her beautiful eyes were smiling as she looked at the man. P.S. Continue at night. Chapter 761. The man looked down and saw the little girl's loose collar, outlining the girl's charm. Her beautiful eyes were curved, making his Adam's apple tighten. Huashidu hid the darkness in his eyes and reached out casually to pinch her cheek punishingly. He chuckled softly. Didn't Yunyun score full marks in mathematics? He did not know what this child was thinking. She was so clingy to him today. Bei Yunj was speechless. If you want to go out for a meal today, I'll bring you there when I'm done. Huashidu chuckled and scratched the girl's chin. Yunyun, come and find trouble with me later. Bei Yunj looked at the man's dark eyes that were filled with carelessness and blatant seduction. Her heart thumped inexplicably. Then, just as Bei Yunj was about to blow dry her hair, she suddenly saw a message from Song Yao. Song Yao, don't take it to heart. Perhaps mature men are more patient with juniors and know how to coax them. Song Yao, if you make a fuss, he might take you out for a meal. If you make a fuss again, he might take you out to play in a few days. Song Yao, it's okay. I believe in Yunja's charm. Bei Yunj was speechless. Soon. Bei Yunj turned around and looked at Huashidu. Brother, actually, Bei Yunj was about to stand up when the man beside her suddenly pressed her head down. She sat back down obediently. Bei Yunj looked up at him. I have a lot of things to do today. If you want to play, I'll take you out to play in a few days. The man rubbed her head, but his eyes were not on her. Bei Yunj was speechless. If you make a fuss again, I might take you out to play in a few days. Sure. 5200 Song Yao was right about everything. After this D*MN man drank, he seduced her until she was dizzy. After waking up, he treated her as a junior. Huashidu did not notice the little girl's torment today. He only coaxed the little girl and waited for her to go upstairs to dry her hair. But in the next moment, Huashidu felt a sudden warmth on his wrist. His gaze deepened, and when he turned around, he saw the little girl holding his wrist. Then, before he could react, the girl's faint fragrance came closer. The beautiful girl sat directly on the man's perfectly ironed suit pants. Her blouse was pulled up even higher, and her straight and fair legs were somewhat ambiguous and dazzling. Her slender and fair arms gently hooked around the man's neck. Yunyun. Huashidu calmly adjusted his emotions, wanting to pull her down. But in the next moment, the little girl hugged him even tighter and sat face to face on his lap. It was also as if she was half kneeling on the sofa and lying on top of him. She looked like the reincarnation of an evil spirit. At this moment, Bei Yunj raised her eyes and looked down at the mole on the man's Adam's apple. She didn't see that the man's dark eyes were rolling with some kind of emotion. The darkness that was half hidden made people blush and their hearts beat faster. Bei Yunj felt that the man didn't move. The corners of her lips curled up slightly and she asked lazily in his ear, "Brother, who taught you to coax women like this?" The man with clear and noble eyes moved his Adam's apple. His eyes were already dark, and he was restraining some kind of danger that was ready to strike. Yunyun, come down. Huashidu's usual laziness disappeared. His magnetic voice was hoarse and sexy, seductive and deadly, and there was a hint of helplessness in it. P.S. Be good and remember the monthly ticket. Chapter 762. Who knew, as soon as he finished speaking, not only did the beautiful and languid girl not listen to him, she even clamped the man's muscular waist. Her actions spoke louder than words. However, the man's eyes were so dark that they could not be seen clearly due to this little girl's actions. They became even more dangerous, but they made people's legs go weak. It was as if looking into his eyes could make even her cheeks burn. Then, the next moment, just as Huashidu was about to say something, he saw something else from the corner of his eye. The man's gaze changed. He suddenly picked up the person in his arms and turned around. This sudden stand-up made Bei Yunj subconsciously hug Huashidu's neck. Her entire body was almost pressed against his body. Looking from afar, The girl was clamped onto the man's waist, her entire body wrapped around his neck, and the man in a neat suit was holding the side of her buttocks. His usually noble and refined eyebrows were simply abstinent and deadly at this moment. This hug was so hot that it made people's faces burn. It was mixed with a hint of lust, and she could not stop herself. "Brother, you..." Before Bei Yunj could finish speaking, she suddenly looked at old Madame Hua, who was holding a lunchbox at the door with a shocked expression. Why did she encounter such a scene every time? Just as Bei Yunj was thinking about whether she should greet the old madam, the man who was hugging her had freed up a hand. He pressed her head down helplessly. Bei Yunj buried her head in the man's shoulder. She did not see anything, but she could feel that the man's body seemed to be burning. In this position, Huashidu carried her upstairs. The old madam, who was standing at the door, almost fainted. Last time, Shidu had told her that this was his friend's sister. The little girl was still in her second or third year of high school. Nothing would happen. But what did she see? She saw that the little girl's legs were long and fair. They were hooked behind the man's waist. Any normal man would not be able to control himself. Number 6. How could nothing happen? After going upstairs, Bei Yunj was placed at the corner of the wall. When she looked up, she met the man's bottomless eyes. Her heart inexplicably skipped a beat, and her gaze seemed to be scalded. She turned her face away. When the man saw this, he restrained the gloominess in his eyes and laughed in a low and seductive voice. His voice was lazy and hoarse, and some sort of restrained emotion was almost undetectable. "Stand as punishment, little scourge." After that, the man casually poked her head with his index finger and turned to go downstairs. A few minutes later, another head slowly popped out from the wall. Bei Yunj waved at the old madam from behind the wall and smiled lazily. He didn't look awkward at all. When the old madam saw this, she realized that she was the most awkward person in the room. Huashidu's expression was indifferent. He looked calm and composed without any awkwardness. "Old madam, what brings you here at this time?" However, the man's low and lazy voice still had a trace of itchy hoarseness. "Old madam, how could she be blamed for coming at the wrong time? If you want to mess around, why don't you go to the room? Is the living room fun?" The old madam felt that she was about to lose her mind from anger. She said, "What else can there be? I'm talking to you about the marriage." Huashidu paused and looked up at her. Only then did the old madam realize that she was really delirious. "Your grandfather's business partner is getting married." Chapter 763. Huashidu looked at the old madam and continued to look up unnaturally. In the blink of an eye, he saw the little girl's head popping out and staring at them with her beautiful eyes. Huashidu couldn't help but laugh. His deep voice was filled with an imperceptible indulgence. "Go and dry your hair first." Bei Yunj left after hearing that. After that, the old madam retracted her gaze in a daze. "Shidu, is this little girl really not the reincarnation of a demoness?" She quite liked this little girl, but she was too seductive. Even an old woman like her felt that her grandson couldn't take it. "Don't you think that our Hua family's assets aren't clean?" the man asked casually. The old madam thought for a moment. That's true. Their family was so rich. What was wrong with a little demoness? 10 little demonesses were more than enough. Suddenly, the old madam regained her confidence and continued her noble and cold demeanor. "Although you are young, you should take care of your health. Also, that little demoness is in her 3rd year of high school. Shidu, you are a man. You have to learn to be considerate." The old madam saw that Huashidu's expression did not change and thought that he did not understand. She winked again. "That's right. At least wait until after the college entrance examination. Right?" Huashidu glanced at her slowly. "If there's nothing else, I'll get someone to send you back first." The old madam, did he find her annoying? "There's one more thing. At the banquet, the person you don't want to see might also arrive, the old madam added. Why would he come? Huashidu's gaze deepened. Hengda High School. Bei Yunj had just entered the class when she saw the dazzling white color of the sun. Then, she focused and met the eyes of the person at the podium. You. Wasn't this speed too fast? Bei Yunj, why aren't you coming in? Teacher Wen felt a little awkward. A new student had just arrived and there was already a classmate who dropped the ball. She arrived at school on time. Was this the behavior of a good student? Good morning, Teacher Wen. Bei Yunj nodded. After greeting her, she went to her seat and did not give Hiyu a chance to greet her. This made Hiyu put on a fake smile. He actually pretended not to know him. At this moment, one of the boys who had already been talking about him giggled and said, Master Pei, I heard that the new kid has good grades. Isn't that so? This kid was really arrogant in the principal's office. He said that he wants the best teachers because he's here to get first place in the grade. Hearing this, Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing were not very interested. To her surprise, Bei Yunj chuckled leisurely. In your dreams. Chu Zhixing, Lu Yuanxi, was this ancestor's temper getting worse and worse? Master Pei, why? Do you want to get first place? Lu Yuanxi teased. To tell the truth, they hadn't seen Bei Yunj's true level yet. Bei Yunj often missed 1 or 2 exams, and her grades fluctuated. But even if he missed 2 exams, he was still above average, which made people gnash their teeth in anger. I kind of miss it. Bei Yunj smirked and said lazily. In an instant, the people who had been laughing and joking just now fell silent. It wasn't that they didn't believe Bei Yunj. Moreover, they couldn't predict what level this serious student would be at. After